Oh. Stay on it. These are the units you need to sign. I can't.
Good God. I can't pick you from here.
Was that this one?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi there.
Hi, it's Bob from LBA.
We're gonna start in just a second.
Yeah, I'll mute myself. I just want to make sure you could hear me because I had some glitches in my network today, so. Technology,
Those are the sign. We're gonna do the this first anyway.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
So
but I just
let's hold on to
now.
those.
Perfect.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming tonight. Just to set expectations, we originally had this meeting set for 5:30. We sort of realized that we had a meeting with our architects on the. We moved it back to 5 o'clock. So the first thing on our agenda is representing the police station. We're gonna have a presentation from them and deal with that first. We also have our town moderator coming in for the upcoming town meeting, which that should not take long just to go over that. And then we'll be getting to the skateboard park issue. I know someone posted on Facebook and I responded a couple of times that, yes, the meeting got moved back to 5 o'clock, but that's because of the meeting with the architects that's coming first. So just to set expectations, that's what we're doing. You're welcome to stay. This is going to be very interesting. Obviously, we're going to be voting on the police station in a couple of weeks. So hopefully you'll learn something about that tonight. So I've called the meeting to order. I guess I'll just start right off turning it over to LBA and let them.
Do we want to talk a little bit before we, just like how we got here? Why, or do you want to do that, or?
I can do that.
Or
Or you can, either one.
we can do it together.
All right, perfect. So we started. We've for years been knowing that our police station downstairs, number one, is too small at 5,500 square feet. It's cramped. There's just not a good working environment down there physically because of the space limitations and the quality conditions and problems related to water, mold, heating, ventilation, just various other things. I mean, this is a 100-year-old building. Downstairs was renovated in the mid 90s to fix that up. But the biggest problem down there is so we hired before we got approval at last year's town meeting to set aside some money for the design and conceptual ideas for the police station. We formed a committee who looked at the police and fire department, putting a building in there for both of those. The architects come back with a great building design, but it was certainly unattainable at the price to do the police and the fire. We have since worked at scaling that model back to just a police department. Not that the fire department doesn't need, the fire station doesn't need some help, but we're gonna focus on what we think is is the most immediate need, and that's at future town meetings, we'll be talking on ideas to upgrade and an expansion to the existing fire station.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is that during the budget committee process, which happened in July, the budget committee and the selectmen both voted upon to bring a warrant article forward at town meeting at the cost of the price tag at $6 million. So essentially our architects kind of retro designed it. They reverse engineered it to make it fit that $6 million with roughly, I mean, you'll see the budget this evening, so everyone will understand, but essentially we took a cost figure that both the budget committee and the selectmen could agree upon and kind of reverse engineered this building, so.
And additionally, both chiefs, Chief Morris, who's here, and Chief Beard from the fire department, both chiefs had input into the design. They met with the architects, they met with the committee, so it's not this board sitting making decisions for those that are in the trenches. So there was input from all of those involved. There was a committee for the fire station in addition to this public safety building.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I'll turn it over to LBA. I'm not sure who's gonna.
So
I'll make an
Bob,
initial,
Bob Robichek is, okay, there you go.
There we go.
no, go ahead, Karina, I'm sorry.
No, you can go right ahead.
No, thank you, Karina. Well, I mean, it was well said by everybody. I turned my video off because I want to make sure my bandwidth is going to be okay. You can hear me all right?
Sound good.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. I'll put my smiling face later when John's talking. So just a couple of things. So this has been a 7-8 month journey. We first of all, LBA has been incredibly appreciative of being retained for this project. We're a New Hampshire firm, and we feel strongly about contributing to the New Hampshire fabric over the last 45 years. We have worked very closely with the stakeholders on this project, both when it was a combined fire police and now that it is just the police. Some of you have seen this multiple times. Some of you seen it for the first time. Karina said it perfectly. Once the select board gave directions to go towards a $6 million project budget for police only, we worked very closely with our cost estimator, who's well versed in New Hampshire public safety facilities, and we did basically reverse engineer ourselves into what was the minimalist program to carry us not just now, but 20 plus years into the future. So that's a key thing to remember, is that it's not just for today or tomorrow. We're looking forward to not doing something that's going to be obsolete or outgrown in 5 years. But last but not least, the concept is a concept. It's a strong design, but it's a concept. And once the warrant article passes on the 14th of March, with support from your great community of town of Lincoln, we would embark on a design process to polish the apple. So there would be additional fine tuning and changes to be made. But this is a very solid start. So it is a concept. Nobody's going to break ground tomorrow based on the stuff you're going to see today. So what we're going to do is to keep it to about 15 minutes. John Adams, my worthwhile cohort, is going to present the site plan and the building plan overall concept. And then I'll talk about the budget, and then any questions and answers after that. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Oh, yeah, so John, I don't know, you have to let us know how big the images are on your screen, because we're not in a room. So if we need to blow up on stuff, please let us know.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. My name's John. I'm from LaValle Brensing Architects. Currently, right now, we're looking at an overall Google sitemap, which is basically identifying the lot that we're proposing on. The town currently owns the 2 lots right here, between civil and architectural. We basically chose the one adjacent to 93. Which poses a lot of convenient access for the building footprint, access to the site, potential access to 93 in the future. And it has more square footage than the one lower down on the photo here. Going to the next one is basically an overall site plan, developing the site for the police department. We've taken an efficient approach to minimize asphalt and travel distances for the officers coming out of the building, go into their cruisers and things. So you can see that, you know, the visitor parking is adjacent to the building. We have short access to the main building. We've got direct access to the staff parking, which is all secure in the back. We have two main entrances. One is primarily for police. The second one is for visitor. Police does have access to go around both sides so that there's a two-way traffic. Just in case one's blocked, they have an avenue to go to the other way. A few key things to look at this is site orientation. The building is facing basically kind of due north, which allows us to potentially do some future solar panels in the future, if the town chooses so. We've also provided some flexibility in the lower corner for a potential, main fire station if that was to move forward at some point in time. But all in all, the main purpose of this site was to reduce materials so that we could reduce overall cost.
Yeah, I would just add to what John said that we know that one of the questions that may be in people's minds is, well, what if a fire station does go here in the future? And the answer is yes, it can go here. We would just need to know the intent of the town prior to really commencing the final design so we can make accommodations for that. So there's no, we're not basically taking asphalt or paving out later that would be done for the police only. So, but I think John covered that really well. So the answer is yes, it can be done.
So moving to the overall floor plan, the first floor plan is currently 13,757 square feet. We've been able to fit all of the department requirements that the town requested. We were able to reduce and refine some of the program to basically, maximize program and reduce overall circulation so that we could fit more, items within each program block than circulation. So what we've also did was provided some wide corridors so that it's a double pass so that there's more than enough egress to go in and out of the building or circulation. Starting over to the right is the visitor parking. We have a main entrance that basically enters into a vestibule. We have two secure or service windows, one for records for off hours, and then dispatch has one off the lobby as well. One of the main features to the public is that we have a EOC room, which could be served as a community room. And then the police also will be using this as a multi-purpose room for agility. This is one of the ways that we've shrunk the building and found one room to serve for multiple purposes.
That room can seat up to 25 people, and it's self-contained with a separate toilet and a kitchenette, and then a storage room for all the folding chairs and tables.
One key feature that we were able to add was some outdoor gathering space, just due to the form of the building, the roof structure. So this is kind of bonus space. So the town could have outdoor gatherings during the summer for any type of small to large event. But as we proceed to the left,
I would just John, before you do that, I would just say that we also have the visiting prosecutor and law clerk office, also the interview room. One of the things that John can point to those in the yellow area. One of the things about a police station to meet the police design standards, and John will be walking through all of that with you, is it's really actually very intricate because of the multiple security points you need, not only separate public from the private and secured areas of the police station, as John will show you, but also when it comes to evidence handling and also the business end, which is the Sallyport booking, processing, and temporary holding. in evidence.
So one thing that we needed to do was basically set some parameters to the building, basically security. So visitors cannot pass this door right here. This is card access only, so that officers can basically do their work and not have to be interrupted by visitors or whatever. So as we proceed down this corridor, to the top here is where the administration office is, which is adjacent to the dispatch. This was a key adjacency so that the officers could, visit the dispatch if they had to, and they didn't have to go onto a non-secure side. So basically, all the flow basically is on the left. So as we progress to the left is a central break room with some central toilets, along with a female and male shower locker room. This will basically house all of the PD clothing, gear, stuff like that. Below, on the lower level, we have the investigation and patrol, which is adjacent to a optional covered carport. So as you can see, we have direct access going outside directly to the cruisers. This one wasn't there. Sorry about that. We have direct access from the patrol so that
From the roll call room.
Yep, from the roll call room, so that it's easy transfer to the cars.
So one thing here is that, a police station is 3 shifts a day, 24/7, 365. So you have officers coming in off the street, writing reports in the patrol work area. If you want to point to that, John. And then you have on the other side, you've got, excuse me, you've got the roll call room. So officers are going out on the street and getting their briefing. So it's very, very efficient. And right next to it is the armory, the ammunition, the firearm cleaning. It's all there and very compact. And that direct access to the outside is critical for a flow of space. And the other thing is right across from where the officers really basically live in their shifts is also a break room as well.
Yep. As we progress to the left is more of the secure part of the building. This is where the officers will bring in detainees, where they have a sally port for 2 cars. They can progress through a secure vestibule and then go through the process of booking and things like that. And we have 3 adult holding room cells and 1 juvenile. And then up above is adjacent to is the property and evidence storage area, which is key to having it close by from booking.
Yeah, the law requires juvenile holding. Everything's temporary because people are held for short periods of time and they're transferred to county. But juveniles be totally separated, and male and female have to be separated as well. And a juvenile need to be sound and sight separated, which we're able to do here.
One key thing that we were able to simplify is facility support. That's basically mechanical, electrical, plumbing rooms, things like that. What we wanted to do was utilize space that wasn't really required for a program. So we were able to provide 2 access points going up into the truss area to provide a penthouse, which basically will house the mechanic room. So it's basically out of sight, out of mind. It's cheaper square foot price for this type of construction because we already need a roof. So we had some space up there. So we were able to utilize that space for facility only.
Yeah, that's in the high side of the trusses, the wood trusses.
Yep. So as we progress through, here's the exterior look of the building. Some of the key features on the outside is trying to use materials for multiple purposes. We need a foundation. So what we've done is extended the foundation 32 inches above the grade to create a durable base. And then what we're also using is a vinyl siding, which is a blue clapboard, which is created on each end, creating a bookend. And then in the gables, we've chosen a wood shaker vinyl siding. And these materials have been kind of selected to tie back into the neighborhood so that it's more of a residential feel, but also a secure appearance as well. Off to the left, you can see that we have a monumental signage, concrete signage with 3 flags. And then off to the left further is where the visitors will be parking and entering into the to the new facility.
And that monument sign is the same height as the base, and the base itself also is kind of a stealth security, because if somebody decides to possibly drive a car into the station, which people may chuckle, but it happens more than you might think, that poured in place concrete foundation, as you mentioned, John, knee wall, what it could look attractive, but also would be a physical barrier without having to put a bunch of bollards in front of the building, which that's not very sightly, to do that. So.
Yep. The next image is basically looking from the rear of the building. So this is basically where everything happens on the police side. So you can see off to the left is we have a double carport or Sally port, sorry. And then to the right is the optional covered carport, which will house 8 cruisers in here. In the foreground here is basically the staff and PD parking. And then and that's about it. Anything you want to add to Bob?
No, the dormers have dual purpose because we need air intakes for the mechanical systems that would be in the loft, in the mechanical loft, or you want to call it, it's not really a penthouse, it's more of a mechanical loft. And so they also, I think that we both, John and I know we met with Karina and the chief and deputy chief several times in the last week or two. It really has a good feel to it. We did a good job of understanding what the heights of these would be, so it's not overly tall. The shapes, it's really contextual. John said contextual to the neighborhood. And while it is a 1-story building, it doesn't require elevators or stair towers. We have access to the mechanical loft, right? But those are not really fire stair towers. It's really contextual. It has a really good feel for what we both know Lincoln pretty well. I lived in Lincoln for 3 winters when I was coaching at Loon, and I mean, it has a good feel for it. And I think, hopefully everybody thinks so as well.
Yep. The next image is basically just a overall view of the building, so you can kind of see the overall massing. So over here along the visitors is that optional solar panel system. You get the main entrance, basically the roof forms. So as Bob said, was one of the key things was we wanted to tie this into the residential houses. So we didn't want to have this overpowering building. So we strategized the roof widths so that it tied back to the community.
About the fire, headquarters, building, fire, and police, which is on the screen in here. See it on
These other images are additional perspectives, giving an eye level view. This lower photo right here is showing that outdoor gathering space,
New Hampshire, you may have to put in.
along with the exterior carport.
All right. Thank you, John. I'm going to go over the budget briefly. So what John was right. What we did, and I think Karina might have mentioned as well, once we sat down with the chief, deputy chief, the command, I'm sorry, somebody's talking in the background, so I'll stop. Okay, should I keep going? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, but hold on, Norm Bartlett, are you online there? Oh, yeah, can you mute him, Jane?
I just did.
All right,
Sorry, Glenn.
okay.
Thank you.
Rezone.
Okay. No problem. I'll also kill my video just to. Program as much as we could.
Okay, wait, Bob,
We just lost you for a
started hearing
second.
Can you start over?
Yeah, I just told me my internet connection was unstable. What's the last thing you heard me say? I'm sorry.
Start from the beginning.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I was concerned about with this. Anyway, so we sat down with the command staff, the PD command staff, and we whittled down the program as much as possible so that it would still be looking 20 years into the future, but it was going to be as functional as possible, as John mentioned. So once we came up with that square footage, and John, you're our Vanna White, if you could put your cursor on the two footages on top, we have 13,757. That's gross square feet. That means out to out, wall to wall, out to out. Okay. And then a mechanical penthouse of about basically 1,200 square feet that John mentioned. So when speaking to our cost estimator, who's a professional estimator, okay, we're not pulling numbers out of a manual or a book, or this is what this guy does for a living in New England, northern New England, in New Hampshire. We basically discussed what can this building be, so it's still a durable building, but it's affordable. So the building itself, and John might have touched on a few of these, really won't have steel beams and steel columns. It's going to be a wood frame building with span wood trusses, very efficient, and the exterior materials are what we're seeing in this kind of a building for the price point that we are going to design this to, 6 million, which is basically a heavy duty commercial vinyl siding, vinyl or fiberglass windows, but the finishes will be durable. You know, we're not building a station like you would a developer built house. It's not. This building gets used literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. So when this building's 10 years old, it's really 30 years old, right? Or 20 years old. So the cost per square foot came up to approximately $284 per gross square foot. We go down, John. The site development, which is clearing, grading, parking, driveways, came out to a modest allowance, utility connections, modest allowance for some landscaping and some fencing. Where fencing is critical actually to the safety of the police department. Came out to about $54 a square foot, so it's 800,000. That we have a design and construction contingency that we usually go at least 5% in this, because of course it's a concept. So in this case, it's 4.5% for about $18 a square foot. And then the soft costs, which include final design, architectural engineering fees, builder's risk insurance, window treatments, exterior signage such as the monument and directional signage, and security such as card key systems, phone IT, low fiber wiring, and another 12%. So that brings us to a total of $6 million at about $402 per gross square foot. That is indexed for the end of the third quarter of this year. So that would be through October of this year. In the assumptions down below, you see that mentioned again. It's an aggressive schedule, but if the warrant were to pass on the 14th of March, John, I feel that LaValle Brensinger and our engineering partners can deliver ready to bid documents by the end of October, early November. So we wouldn't have to extend additional escalation into Q1 of 2024, which could potentially add an additional approximately 4%. That's based on the current market trends. Escalation had been over 12% a year in 2020, 21 due to supply chain issues and labor issues with COVID. They're starting to ease up a little bit last year, and now this year they're projecting to be under 10%. Some people as low as 8, some people as high as 11, but we're just taking the midpoint of that. The budget assumes moving all existing furniture from the current police station, relocating dispatch consoles, which the chiefs have agreed is possible, and relocating the radio antenna to the new facility. So that's off of the bottom line. The solar arrays would be something you could consider as it's not in the budget. A lot of our clients are basically renting to own on those with a payback, so that they usually make a agreement, a contract with a solar provider to do that, so they don't own the panels till much later. So that's not in the budget, and the moving costs are not in the budget either. Last but not least, there's three alternates here. One is the covered carport for 8 cars within a secured parking lot. The chiefs can speak to the necessity of that because of obviously it's a northern climate. You have a lot of snow. It's open. There's no doors on it, but it's enclosed on 3 sides and would allow the vehicles to be put on the street with very minimal cleaning. So that's 150,000. 200, a new 200 kW generator was excluded because it's about 100,000 because several police departments in the state have been getting grants from the state for the entire cost of the generator. There's several communities in the last 6 months that have done that, and speaking to Karina and the chiefs, I believe that, and Karina can speak to that. The town will look at a grant for that along with some other grants which are not reflected in this budget, right? And last but not least, the geotech engineering, the borings, the soil reports, and the third-party testing required during construction is not in the bottom line budget above. So that's pretty much the budget. We'll be happy to answer not just us, but also Karina and the chiefs to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Chief, Deputy Chief, did you have anything to either add or ask about?
I'm good, other than the fact that I've said it and I'll say it, we have no space. Take 3/4 of this room, I have 25 employees, take them all down there. That's how cramped we are. We have no space. We have 5,500 square feet downstairs. That doesn't include cells and Sally's board and evidence. We have very little working space. We've grown to the point where we're out of room. We need to expand. We need more room. So it's kind of we're at a critical point. Do you think?
I'm good. I would hope that, Bill Nancy is, I would hope that, I know you don't live in this community. I've worked in it for many years, off and on throughout my career. The reality is, this building that's been condensed down to the $6 million figure is not gonna be any cheaper in 2 years. So fiscally, it's up to the taxpayers whether or not they want to support that or not.
Thank you. Jack, Karina?
Karina, is there anything we didn't cover that you think we should have covered in the presentation, Karina?
No, I mean, I think you covered the site and the building well. I think a point that, I would like to touch on is just because the budget is what it is established right now at that 6 million doesn't mean that the town is not going to apply for grants for some portions of the building to try to reduce that overall cost. This is a kind of maximum amount that will be spent, but the town of Lincoln is not afraid to apply for grants. Last year, we got nearly 500,000 in grant money to support operations throughout the town. So we are committed to continue to apply for grants to reduce the overall cost. But in the event that, we end up in a worst case scenario, this is where we'll be.
Between, sorry, Tara? Oh, yeah, I did see that, thank you. I was gonna ask, between now and town meeting, we're gonna want some help with pictures, designs. This is a good package here. I just want to have something together before town meeting, and I will certainly spare. I've already put some of my ideas down, but would love some pictures and things in more of an 8.5 by 11 format.
And I think too, if people have questions, obviously we sit here with the documents, you listen to Zoom, some of it you heard, some of it you couldn't hear. So if you need any additional information, don't hesitate to stop into town hall. We'll make it available. We want the public to be as informed as possible, because it's yours, it's mine, it's our tax dollars at work. So consequently, you have the ultimate say in it. So it's important that you know what you're voting on.
One thing I would like to say before we close, in the event that we had to take up a bond for the full 6 million, We reached out to some banks in the local area. Right now, they're offering a 4 to 5% interest rate. What that looks like in your tax bill, because everyone wants to know, how is my tax bill going to be affected? It's about 37 cents on the tax rate. So right now, the town's tax rate is $10.55. If we added 37 cents for the 6 million, we'd still be under $11. We'd be about $10.90 something cents. So on a, I did some math on a $300,000 home, it's $111 a year, so about $50 per tax bill for this building. On a $600,000 home, it's double that, 222. So that's what you can expect to see if you were to vote yes on this. How much is it going to affect my taxes? That's a rough estimate at this rate, so.
True, and there's other things that will affect that, that I plan to bring up at town meeting, but between now and the time our first, assuming this gets passed in March, in 2 weeks. By the time we get our first payment due on the $6 million bond, we should have 3 other loans fully paid off that will come off of our tax rate. So that 37 cents is gonna have some offsetting, say, savings with other bond payments that will no longer be due.
Right, so the net effect will be smaller than the 37 cents. Yeah.
Paul, I'm gonna hold on 1 second, because Paul had his hand up. So go Paul, then Paul. Paul Bowden, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you take down the town of Lincoln Police Department or the whole graphic that's coming up on the screen? 'Cause that's all we're seeing. There you go. Thank you. So.
Oh, you want to stop screen sharing?
Pardon me? Can you hear me now?
Go ahead. Yeah,
All right. So from what I remember, the original building was 34,547 square feet. And that cost was like $8 million. Was it $8 million for that?
It was $24 million, Paul, and it was combined building. It just wasn't the police department. It was a public safety building, police and fire.
It was $24 million
That's correct.
for the 34,547 square feet. So we've
I think-
reduced that. Go ahead.
I think that's a little high. I think we were right around the 30,000 mark.
Yeah, I had it. Okay, well, I had it written down 34,547. So basically what we've done is we now have a main level of 13,757 square feet, and I guess you call it the penthouse of 1,175 square feet.
Yes.
And so the total building is what, 14,000 some odd square feet now? What did, so
Correct.
all of the rest of that was cut out was the fire department? Is that my understanding?
Can I answer that, Karina? It's Bob.
yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Bob.
yeah, I hope you can hear me, guys. I'm having some issues here, of course. So the program for the police was larger. I believe, John, that we were enabled to about the low 16,000s, correct? And of course, the fire is large because you have very large apparatus base. Once the fire was,
What's
once
that?
the
Watching it.
Oh.
once the fire was removed from the program, we continue working with the police department to cut the program as much as possible, as we said earlier, but still be looking forward 20 years out for space needs. So that's how we got to this footage versus 16.5, John, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was in the 16,000s.
So the original, when it was a combined police and fire, it was 16,000 plus square feet.
No,
Well,
it was 30,000 plus when it was combined. The police piece was 16,000 something.
That's what I was getting to. So the police department was 16,000 square feet originally. So you've reduced it by some 2,000 square feet, because it's now 14 and almost 15,000 square feet currently, right?
We reduced
That's
it by
what-
over 2,000, correct?
it's, well, and that's not, I don't think that's, if I understand it, I don't think that's apples to apples, because the main level is 13,757 and the upper level penthouse is 1175, and you had 2180 square feet in the 8 covered parking. Now, the 8 covered parking was originally part of the 16,000 square feet, am I correct? Or not?
Oh, was it?
I'm
Bob,
sorry?
I believe that's a no. It was not part of the original.
I don't think it was part of the original. It's outside space, so unless it's enclosed. There was a time, and John, please feel free to speak up, John Adams, when we looked at enclosing that, and then it would count. But when it was open, it did not count.
Okay, so I guess my question is, the reduction from what we originally had for the police department versus what it is now is about 2,000 square feet.
That's correct.
And the reduction in cost is, I thought it was originally, you said it was 24 million for the police and fire. How much of that was originally police?
Be honest with you, we don't have that information at our fingertips. Karina and the chiefs
can
have
you
all
get
that
it?
info. So
Can you get it?
Yeah, no, we don't need to wait for them to get historical information. What is the point of the question here?
I guess the point of my question, OJ, is that I'm not sure that it doesn't appear that or I'm not sure, I should say, that the square foot reductions match the cost reduction. And I'm seeing, I'd just like to be able to look at the numbers. I mean, I think people need to know what they're getting for their money versus what was originally going to be done for the police department. And I think if you take a look at the 2 plans, I mean, you have to be able to take a look at the 2 plans and the square footage versus what the new plan is in the square footage and the cost, and say, are we really just building the police side for the same amount of money?
I could tell you for sure that the dollars per foot for the building and overall project cost has gone down quite a bit. It was in the upper 400s, and now it's at the number that you saw on screen earlier. So the number per square foot has gone down along with the program, which has also gone down. But all that information historically is available to you.
All right. I mean, that's what I think. I'm hearing from a lot of people is that they still think that the $6 million price tag's quite a bit. Thank you.
Thanks. Paul?
Hello, I'm Paul Sherwan. I just have a pretty simple question. It's more a procedural thing. At the end of the presentation, they mentioned that there were some required soil reports that they were going to do. And I was wondering what those reports were, especially in context of these same soil reports that we had over for the proposed park that caused us to move it to the community center now. Are those same soil reports going to be the same in all 3 locations, and what are those reports exactly?
I can address that. So we would have geotech borings done at anywhere from 4 to 6 points on the footprint that John showed. This is a 1-story building, so there is no basement. We would just be looking for the quality of the soil and any ledge that was there and a water table level. But again, there's no basement here, so that is not a worry. It's more an issue of being able to do a standard foundation. That would be done right after the warrant passes as we start design. And that's going to inform the structural engineer's design for the foundation system. The other testing, you just material testing during construction, such as concrete cylinder testing and so forth, that's required during construction be provided. But the geotech is the borings and the soils report that comes from a soil engineer, as you might have mentioned, was done recently for another project.
Thank you, Bob. As opposed to the tests over there that you're talking about, were done pretty specifically for contamination.
Right.
And they were much deeper than 6 feet.
Okay.
Much
And then, of
deeper.
course, the follow-on question would be, would we do the test in those other two areas.
I would doubt it.
Right, well, that's what I'm getting at. Are we doing an apples to apples thing? And what caused us to do those type of testings over at the original proposed park site? When I see other buildings like King's Playhouse, did they have to go through the same procedure? I'm just wondering how this whole thing came about, this testing, where it seems like we aren't doing it. Like for King's Playhouse, probably new proposed in the community center, also not gonna do it. You know?
Okay, let's stick to the
Yeah, I
police
know.
station
I'm
discussion.
putting it out
for now.
there, putting it out there.
We can talk about that during the skateboard.
Okay, fair enough.
And Paul, just as an aside, as we know, the area down by the river was a dumping ground where contamination and bad materials were dumped. So that caused the town and the engineers to do deeper testing that we probably would do at these two sites. Unless, again, historically, we find out that they were used as dumping grounds or ash pits or what have you.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we don't know what we don't know, you know, so, I mean, something else could be over there from the runoff from all the car waste from, you know, antifreeze or oil. Or gas.
All right, we're gonna move back to the skateboard, to the police department station discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, but if the skateboard, I mean, not the skateboard, if the fire station land is polluted, are you gonna abandon the fire station? Police station.
The police station is underneath us.
No, the new location.
If it's polluted,
Yes.
we will,
Because he just said
Base-
it doesn't really matter because there's no base.
yeah, go ahead.
It does matter. Obviously, you know, toxic waste can seep through the ground, and we don't want that to endanger the lives of our officers or any of their clients. No, but the other point is that, you know, we don't know what's there. If it worked, we would obviously not, again, we have to look at the remediation cost. I mean, that's the big deal. At the site down by the river, the mediation cost is a minimum of $800,000 to over $1 million. And the town was not gonna pay that. I don't think you wanna pay it. I know I don't as a taxpayer wanna pay it.
Can I just say one thing? It's Bob. I wasn't referring to anything to do with environmental issues. The reason we do geotech borings is to inform the design of the foundation and slab system. I was not in any way referring to environmental issues, just to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Paul? Oh,
Hang on a second, I'm trying to get,
hold on a second, Paul. Al had his hand up and you already spoke once. Let me talk,
that's fine.
Al first. Did you have your hand up?
My name is Al Poole, 82 Pollard Road, home of the natural ski bump, Pollard Road. About a year and a half to 2 years ago, I'm the chairman of the Safety Building Committee. It was a diverse group of people from the community that was asked by the selectman and the town manager to come up with a needs assessment. And the needs assessment was police and fire. You know, what we're dealing with downstairs at the police department, we've overgrown it. It's really not even by code, especially if we come to the human rights and everything else dealing with downstairs. The fire department's gonna need some type of new building eventually also. But our greatest needs assessment right now, we determined, was the police department, do something with the police department. The location was basically chosen with the cooperation with the board of selectmen and the town manager and this committee we all formed. Jim was on the committee, several other people were on the committee. And then the original cost was about $24 million. We looked at that and said to the town, and we don't want a $24 million building. We're just not going to afford it. So basically the selectmen made a good decision and came up with for the needs assessment immediately that need to be. Is there a plan, or do we have the space on record here for a future fire department also?
We were told,
Go ahead.
we were told that the design would allow that to be attached or separated on the same parcel. I let the architect speak to that, but that was one of the prerequisites of where the building for the police was going to be located.
Al, that was a question I asked them, so I knew it was gonna be a question this evening. And what's gonna dictate that is how
Exactly.
we're gonna have to move things around, the building might have to shift, the water management's really gonna be the biggest, kind of hurdle for that. And if we know that going into it, once we get past this kind of conceptual idea and we move into final designs, if we know that our end goal is to have the fire department on that lot, we will design stormwater management to allow for that.
I
Yeah.
know the vision plan for the community or for the committee here was to have a fire station there.
Sure.
I mean, I would like to see a fire station there. Eventually, they need it, along with the immediate need for the police station. Thank you.
Yes, and that's a good point. And you know that the original plan had the visitor parking. If we did an addition for a fire station, we'd probably come back, yeah. Just because of space and the existing roads, et cetera.
Yes,
Paul, do you have something else to add? Oh,
Okay.
Bob,
no, I was gonna say, this is Bob, just for speaking for John and myself and the LBA team, that what you said exactly correct. That's why I mentioned a few minutes ago that once the warrant passes and then we're really gonna complete the final design, we would really want to know from the town if we need to make room for a future fire station to be on that site, as we had before, as the gentleman just mentioned. And then we would make sure that whatever we do in laying out the site would be an easy plug-in rather than coming back and taking things out that were just built 5 years later to make room for the fire station. We're very conscious of every dollar counts, and we would absolutely account for that if that's the direction to go. Thank you.
thanks, Bob. All right, Paul, one last thing.
Are you talking to Paul Bowden?
Yes,
Yeah, by the way, it's been hard to hear you and a lot of the other people because they've been breaking up. So a lot of the conversation has been getting lost in the video feed. Can you tell me, it's chief there, how many police officers are on at any one time in Lincoln?
Well, that depends, Paul. It could be 3 to 5 at a time, depending on the day, depending on overlap of the shift. And it's just not officers in the town of Lincoln. At any one time, we could have Fish and Game, State Police, Woodstock, Lincoln. Our parking lots are full. If you've ever looked out back, I don't have parking.
I got you.
To answer your question,
I just want to know how many Lincoln Police Department are on at any
it
one
depends on
time.
the day and the schedule.
So it's 3 to 5.
Could be between 3 and 5. Yeah.
Okay. And can you also tell me, do all the cruisers that you currently have, do they all have computers that are iPads or whatever you call them, that shift officers can use to fill out their reports?
We have MDTs, which are computers in the car that has a records management system. And I believe it's 5 out of the 7 cars have MDTs.
5 out of 7? All right. Thank you very much.
all right,
Thank you.
thanks. Yeah, Jim,
Jim Welch here. I live on East Burr Road. I thought at one time there was supposed to be a basement in this place. You could move the evidence room downstairs. You could move the weight room downstairs. You could move the cleaning of the revolvers and rifles and whatever downstairs. And I'm pretty sure there isn't any contractor in town that wouldn't like $250, $300 plus anyways. But over down another 3-4 feet for the basement, that would shrink that building quite a bit.
I know
Another
that
thing, has anything been done about that pie shape that the state owns? We wouldn't have to worry about trying to position this building in this little lot if we could have that pie shape from the state. Has anybody done anything?
So I'll respond to the first question. After the most recent redesign, we did look at a basement and we did have a preliminary design with the basement, but we found that it wasn't the most cost-effective way to do things. The most cost-effective way to do things was to have it all one level. It would eliminate the need for an elevator. It would eliminate the need for the additional stairwells. We found that the elimination, it just wasn't the most cost-effective route to go down. And I mean, I'll let Bob or John chime in regards to that, but we found that it just, as much as we thought it was going to be a cost-effective way of doing things and we could shrink the square footage, we found that it wasn't.
Yeah, Karina, you basically hit the nail on the head. The cost for an elevator, the cost of the stairs was upwards of, you know, $200,000 to $300,000. So what we've done was we've taken that money and invested it more on the first floor to basically make a more cost-effective building. So once you start adding multiple levels, you need to provide means of you know, access for, you know, ADA. So we'd have to have stairs, elevators. So having everything on one floor, we've eliminated 2 stairs and an elevator, which is saving the town quite a bit of money.
And as far as the state triangle piece, I do believe that the plans that we are designing right now include the state triangle. So I know the state triangle has been brought up and we are hoping that we'll get it. That is something that we are going to investigate with DOT. But we didn't want to get ourselves ahead of ourselves, put the cart before the horse and put through the time and energy to get through the state process if this building wasn't even going to come to fruition, if we didn't have the money to even design this building, so.
I just want to add one little thing. That, before 93 went through, that was an airport. There has never been any pollution done over there. That was an airport long before I was born. So, you know,
Yeah,
there's no ground pollution over there.
we're expecting good things from the soil reports. believe me. So, all right, if there's nothing else, thank you guys for the presentation.
Is there any, this is John Kimball. Am I allowed to talk here?
Sure.
I got a question, or actually 2 questions for you. It appears from the design here that it's running parallel to I-93. Do we know basically what the standoff distance between the highway right away and the building is going to be?
We looked at that with our civil engineers and also a town's engineer, and it's not an issue. The town talked about a slip ramp in the future to 93 North, but we're not anywhere close to that setback.
Well, the reason why I was asking is you mentioned the security where the sign was on the front of the building. What is being erected to protect the rear of the building from, let's say, an 18-wheeler jackknifing either accidentally or on purpose into the building?
I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think that was taken into consideration at this time. It's a conceptual design. When we do the final design, we can surely look at that because that would involve discussion with New Hampshire DOT. And our civil engineers, VHB, very familiar with New Hampshire DOT, and also your town's engineer, consulting engineers. So we could surely look at that. But in the study, conceptual study, we just looked at the immediacy of the building and the parking. And we're pretty reasonably set back from the highway.
Okay, the second question is, given the type of natural events that we're having now, the catastrophes and things like that, by going with a strict wooden building, is that going to be reliable in the event of a natural disaster to where the needs of the community are going to be guaranteed or a high probability of being implemented? You know, as far as communications, delivery of emergency supplies, places for people to assemble, that type of thing.
I mean, I think the chief should answer that question. I think the building would be solid, but I don't know, the chiefs probably should address that.
I'm not an architect.
Good.
We do plan on, as far as the emergency operations center of the building, can also be, you know, turned into a warming center or a place the community can come to, you know, to get out of the elements. As far as the tornado, I don't know. That's not my thing.
One of the things that the
John,
town gave the architects is to not make this a steel and masonry building, because that brings us back to the $24 million mark, which basically brings us back to just leaving the police department downstairs, because that will never happen. I think one thing that I picked up from what they were explaining is that around the whole building, there's I think they said 32 inch basement that will
concrete
stick up above the
foundation
ground
base.
that would stop foundation,
Not basement.
foundation that would stop a vehicle from going through. Would it stop an 18 wheeler going 90 miles? That's not what they were asked to design. So-
planes.
Yeah. So I'm
I
gonna
would say,
bring the discussion
Sorry.
to the. Go ahead, Bob.
no, I would just say that the building will be designed to current code standards, including structural code standards, which have been changed about every 6 to 8 years. So regardless of how the building's constructed and framed, as you noted, it would meet all the current requirements for seismic, wind loads, all of that would be included in the design, even though the building is not a solid masonry building, which does have a major impact on the overall project cost potentially. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bob, and thanks for the whole team there. This is very helpful. And we'll be back in touch to work together to put something together for the town meeting to pass out.
Yeah, we'll
So-
be happy to provide you images in 8.5 by 11 or board size and separate those from the package. John, I've done that with a couple other communities that we're working with that are also going for the warrant on the 14th. So you can just make your reports there locally. So we'll touch base with Karina tomorrow regarding that. John will do that. John and I will do that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Paul, we'll
Thank
take
you.
other comments during the other public comment part of the.
Yes, and just
Um,
for the police department, OJ, I'd just like to find out how we get the information that was submitted tonight as taxpayers. Can we just request that from Karina? Do we get the same? Are there handouts
Yeah,
that were?
this is electronic, electronically available. You can request it right now. We'll take that as a
So, yeah.
request. Can we set the call? We're done.
Yeah,
Great.
I would like to get a copy of everything that was submitted tonight,
Thank
please.
you. Is.
Now,
is
do you-
Rob-
do-
oh, yeah, Robert here.
Do you also have a
Before we
copy
get
of
started,
what
can we move even the
submitted originally?
over
Yeah.
about 2 feet?
Oh,
There
oh,
are more
oh,
desks
but-
in the hallway that I think we could get standing room in the back if we just shift.
Okay, Robert's on at this point. We can.
Push everybody back.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, 2 feet will give us. plenty of room.
Tables.
I feel like I got it all the way up. Great, great. But I saw it on the voting.
I don't know if you can hear John and I, but can we log off? Yes, thank you.
Yes, very good.
Here, let me-
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna just, I think, quickly go over the town warrants with the town moderator, just to make sure we have our act together for next Tuesday. First of all, is there anything that you want to know or tell us about as far as any changes, differences, things you need to be aware of?
No, I think my rules haven't changed since last year. So 10 minutes for the original presenter, 3 minutes for those in debate. Do you think that's sufficient? There's a couple on here that might.
My first question is gonna be for the first, the first article in the evening, sorry, the second on the new police stations. 10 minutes, as you saw from our presentation here, 10 minutes is not gonna be enough to adequately explain what it is, why we need it, how much it costs, and how we're gonna pay for it. And we really need to cover all of those things. Can we do a 20-minute? Initial,
I certainly can change my rules for 20 minutes for the bond articles, and if I'm not overruled, that's fine with me.
okay. And will we be able to do a slideshow, a PowerPoint, I could say?
Yes, I'll work that with the school.
Okay.
We'll bring someone into planning. Do you think that plan on coming for there?
Is Carol planning on being there?
Carol usually, so the first two articles will be voted on during the day.
Right.
Carol will be there,
Okay,
like she
excellent.
does, usually sets up
Yep.
a little table, so yes,
Perfect.
she'll be there to answer.
Okay.
questions.
Articles 3, 6 and 7, I think were written well so that we can vote on them, and if they pass, but they're not needed, they disappear. I'm also open to tabling them and then voting later, but the way they're written, even if they pass and they're not needed, they're null and void.
I'd personally be more comfortable passing over those. That way we're not bringing up, discussing and asking questions about an article that might go away in an hour.
Right. So I guess I should have started that with, for the bond articles, we have to vote for an hour each, so we'll be moving on to Article 6 and 7 prior to knowing the results of those.
So if we can pass over those and move on to the operating budget,
Sure, and you'll be prepared to make that motion?
we will, yes.
Okay.
Tammy. You there? Yeah, Tamara, are you there? Well, Tamara's gonna do that.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
She's here.
She was. I will do the, bond. Articles.
Okay.
Like
Versus
motion
Passover.
to table until the
Yeah.
results of Article 4
Yeah.
are read,
Okay.
or something along those lines.
OJ, your feed is breaking up.
I think we're overloading our system here. I mean, I think we don't need.
And I think probably everyone's on the Wi-Fi too. so.
All right.
So Article 9.
Collective bargaining.
Tamara will take that. And I'm not being mean, she's our budget committee representative, she's gonna like fall through this, so it's her job.
Article 10 again would
Will be same,
able to,
yeah.
if necessary.
And unless you wanted the school officer. I'll have her. All right, and then we get into capital reserves. CIP person, is it anyone that you would not want help with, or?
Good handle.
So
So that brings us to.
all the way to Article 29 is gonna be Jack.
Okay.
Then once we get to Article 30. I'll do 30 and 31. Were you gonna defer to the town clerk
I think so.
on 32? I'll do 33. 33 and 34. And under Article 35, we're gonna have a proclamation. And I don't know of anything else, but who knows?
Okay. What kind of computer would be plugging into the slideshow? For the map?
Mac.
I think that's everything else.
And I'd be available to sit down and practice plugging in.
Sure.
We can do that during the day. During the day.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be doing it.
Charlie will be there during the day.
I'll be there too, so, okay,
Okay.
yep,
Sounds good.
we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll see you then. All right, next on the agenda is the skateboard park. Just to preface the next session here. We originally talked about a skateboard park, I believe it was 2012 when we started the discussion. And the skateboard park committee was formed. We looked at primarily the riverfront park area. And that was kind of a, I'm gonna call it a mutually beneficial arrangement where the town wanted to get something happening at the riverfront park. The skateboard committee wanted to build a skateboard park somewhere. And we thought that the skateboard park would be a good way to sort of trigger that, along with Tara got a grant for canoe launch and some of the other aspects of that. So we had sort of two things going on to help get that park going. In 2017, we finally got back the environmental testing results for the piece of land. There was some minor contamination there that needed to be cleaned up, but the overall message that was delivered to the town was that it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a lot, it wasn't spreading, it wasn't traveling downstream underground. So there's a lot of good feeling we got from doing that. Well, it needed further testing, We finally got a Brownfield grant that paid for the last round of testing. And the result come back that we're gonna need to spend about 800, maybe $1 million, 800,000 to $1 million to clean up the minor amount that's there. That was not the number that we were anticipating to make use of that site down there. We then looked at what our alternatives are, and we actually were equally or more excited about putting this at the existing community center. Where the community center is now. Of course, to the left is the parking lot, then there's a community garden area. It would be to the left of that. But leaving a tree buffer between, what is the community, center and the abutters. The skateboard park would take up I forget what Kevin said, 100 by 60?
110 by 60 now.
Okay, 100 feet by 60 feet footprint, that would be located up towards the gravel driveway. The paved driveway is sort of over here. Gravel driveway is on that left side. It would be just behind and go back. That would leave plenty of trees, as I said, up to the left of that. So as part of the process to make a decision on that, we have 2 public hearings. So that we can listen to comments about that, using that piece of land instead of the riverfront park. One of the problems with, additional problems with the riverfront park is, the town's not gonna spend $800,000 to clean that up. We do understand our responsibility to do something about it. The chemicals that are in the ground in these certain spots should not just be left there. However, just like we've got brownfield money to do the testing, we're hopeful that we can get brownfields money to do the actual cleanup. The thing with that is that it would take an unknown amount of time to go through the application grant process, developing the mitigation plan, and then actually doing it. We're talking years. If that's the case, the skateboard park is going to lose some of their grant funding that they have come up with to build this park, and basically it would really harm. They have enough money now to basically just go do it. This would set them back, that they would have to wait and would lose that funding and would, lose that money forever. We think, the group of people who looked at this, I thought that was a good alternative and actually had some better circumstances that made it a better location than the original site. But as I said, the purpose of tonight, we call this a hearing. It's for the 3 selectmen, and Tamara is available on Zoom to listen and take the comments and make a decision from there. With that being said, I'm going to open up the public hearing. I do want people to understand that we're all one community. Whether you're for this, whether you're against this, the heck you feel, we're one community. We're here to listen to each other, be respectful of each other, understand that people come from different perspectives, different geographical places in town. We're here to listen. We do have 7 letters that were sent to us that we were asked to read at the public hearing. I think it would be fair to first open up the comments to the people who are here in front of us, and we'll save these for whatever hour we get to. Listen to comments. So with that being said, I will call on people to speak, and I do ask that one person speak at a time, and then I won't call on the same person again unless it's a question of town manager, the rec department, police department. They might be allowed to speak twice, but otherwise I like to get as many people, recognize as many people to speak as we can.
And just make sure you announce yourself so we can put your name into the record too.
Correct. So, who? Delia.
My name is Delia Sullivan. I live on Coolidge Street. I've been following the Riverfront Park since we moved here permanently 10 years ago. I think the Board of Selectmen for all these years have been doing a great job trying to figure out if this was a possibility. I think the skateboard committee has been awesome. as an alternative site, I think that Pollard Road is terrific. But I'm glad that you said that you plan on doing Brownsfield grants to clean up I don't want the riverfront to go polluted and kick down the road for these same kids that are gonna be at the skateboard park to clean up in 20 years. That's not what we want. You know, that should be something that should still be in the focus of the town to clean that up. But I'm for that new site.
Thank you.
Chairman, yes, Tammy Jeanette Dutilli. I'm all for kids. I am not for this location. I did a daycare out of my home for just short of 33 years. I know most of that was licensed with the state of New Hampshire. The older children and the younger children are not a good mix. I also know the elderly go up to the town daycare area quite often. I watch the elderly walk from Lincoln Green by my house. You get skateboarders coming up, and I know people say they're not gonna be riding the road. They ride the road, they ride the sidewalk. It's not gonna be, even my mother at 88 years old walks the sidewalk with pins in her hips. They can't move out of the way in time. A lot of the kids are respectful, but there's just as many that are not. People go up for the food pantry. They drop off the children at the town daycare. You get skateboarders in the road. It's not a good mix, in my opinion. The noise from the bearings on the skateboards, it does get loud. I've been around it quite a bit. You go to a lot of skateboard parks, you will see the graffiti, you will hear the swearing. And I know I've been shut down on this plenty of times before, but the drugs do get around there. It's not a good mix, it's not a good location. We got private residents there, myself included. And you also have Airbnbs. And I just personally do not feel it's a good location. You have the community garden. You have the after-school program that uses the banking behind the town daycare or beside the town daycare. All these are going to be affected. The elderly and the little children, elementary and younger, are my main concern. To open up my window and hear bearings, don't say I won't, because I know I will. My neighbors will hear it also. It's not cool. The Airbnbs, they charge people money to stay at their place. They open up their window. Kids are out there skateboarding. They're doing what they should do. Just location is not the right location. And if you guys want to do something with that location, if you're bent on spending money, do it for the elderly so they have a place to sit. Before the light company cut down a tree on my island in front of my house for my rentals, I had a bench out there so Betty Doffany and other people could sit there. There is nothing for the elderly from Lincoln Green up to the town daycare. There's nothing for them to sit and rest. The town daycare walks by with their children and they do a wonderful job, but it's darn hard for them sometimes pushing that stroller with all those kids. You know, maybe a place to sit for them, to just take a breather for themselves, for being wonderful and getting those kids out in the environment. You know, just suggestions, but the skateboard park, sorry, I'm supposed to be doing my mother's eyebrows. The skateboard park should be in a more secluded location away from homes. That's my personal opinion, and away from the little children and the elderly. They don't all hear good. I don't hear good. I'm not there yet. Not far, but I'm not there yet. So if you would just consider a different location. And I do have one question. Does the town own land at the industrial park?
Yes.
And would you be open to using some of that land for skateboard park, which is off the beaten path, not where the elderly walk or the little kids walk?
We haven't discussed that.
Or would you consider it?
One of the, if I may, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that we had talked about, Timmy, is one of the drastic needs for the town is some type of affordable housing for those that want to live here and work here.
Mhm.
And we had contemplated bringing that to the town maybe next year to see if they would rezone that land, possibly. possibly, just a thought
Right.
for affordability for, some type where we general parties that currently own businesses there, and they'd both be in favor of doing that. Whether the townsfolk would, that's another decision to be made.
Understand.
If I may continue, Mr. Chairman. I did talk over the past few days with a number of entities, towns that have skateboard parks in them. I talked with the chief on Plymouth, and he said, Jack, absolutely no increase in crime, no use of drugs, no major issues there whatsoever. He says, in fact, we actually have a marijuana dispensary in town, and we haven't seen any rise in. So, he was all in favor. I tried to reach the town of Bethlehem's chief. He was on vacation. I did talk with a Sergeant Doobie up there, and he said the only thing that they've had problems with their skateboard park was some kids smoking cigarettes that are underage, but they have an ordinance dawn to dusk, and that's it. I asked about the noise factor, and he said, if you look at studies that have been done, that the noise factor is comparable to a kid's playground. I didn't ask what age. I also talked with the person that dispatches and handles all of Bethlehem's calls. They said never, she told me, never have we had a call that needed immediate response as far as crime goes to the skateboard parks. I mean, sometimes people, not you, but sometimes people throw that out as a scare tactic. Oh, we're gonna get gang, we're gonna get this, not factual. Kids are in a structured environment. I did talk with the former chief who's sitting off of my standing over to my left there. And as you know, the community gardens are maintained by the Interact Club, which is sponsored through the Rotary. And I asked the chief, because one of the concerns raised by somebody who's going to kind of police it, pick up the trash, if there is trash. And chief, do you want to respond to that? I still call you chief.
I know we, I Doug Warren. Yeah, I mean, the Interact Club does maintenance around, do other things at the community center. And just to reiterate what you said, I don't have a stake in the game. I was kids in town. I don't skateboard. I did 50 years ago. But whether you build it there or on top of Mount Lafayette, doesn't matter to me. But I will tell you that in any place you put a basketball court in there, and you get some late night basketball people, there may be a little bit of swearing. Somebody might turn on a boombox, whatever. It can happen. Cascade Park over in Woodstock, for many years, we upgraded that, put picnic tables in, and yeah, we had to patrol it. Did we have a little bit of marijuana there once in a while, some alcohol down with the Cascades, so we had to worry about people slipping and falling the rocks? We absolutely do. But you just have to manage it. So if the community is going to put it there, I would suggest that you adopt some sort of curfew, whether it be 9, 10 o'clock, whatever the local community wants, and the lights go out at that time. Police department makes a swing by, make it sure it's signed well, and I don't think.
And that's another thing. I mean, it wasn't a ploy to get people to vote in favor of the police department, the new police station, but that would be on the same site. So they would be driving down Polly Road constantly, whether the chief and I talked about that today, whether they were on their shift or whether they were in their private cars. But of course, they're going to look over and see any activity that needs to be addressed. I mean, police are literally on duty 24 hours a day, as we know, and we all know that they do a great job here. But when you talk with other people that have experienced it, that's what I base my opinion as a selectman on. I know there are people who are going to say my property values are going to go down. Well, you can always apply for an abatement. If that's factual, you get an abatement on your taxes. I know that people are going to say, we're going to draw outsiders. Well, socialization for our children is a great thing. I went over the Kank the other night, I think either Saturday or Sunday, sat in my truck and then walked inside and watched what a great opportunity, young kids talking with old kids coming up to the candy window and looking at their account to see how much money they had so they could get candy. I mean, I did see one of your trucks. I don't know if you were in it, Jim, or what, but it was there. And it was great to see kids interacting with kids. older kids teach young kids. Our parents taught us. That's how we learn, whether it's on a basketball court. You know what? I've seen people tell me now, you know what, they want pickleball courts. Let's turn pickleball courts for the older people. So we can't just be generational and think of ourselves. We have to think of kids growing up as they grow through life. How can we teach them to be good citizens? And I think, you know, if you set parameters, you set rules, it's going to happen. Is there always going to be somebody that screws up? That's why we have jails and prisons. Yes. I mean, you know, I was a probation officer one time. I was a teacher and coach at a high school and coach at a couple different high schools. And, you know, it's amazing to see what sports will do for kids that sometimes don't have anything but sports. So, you know, I'll listen, but I think you know where I'm coming from.
I hear where you're coming from, but are you aware of the location in Plymouth where the skateboard park is?
I am. I visit. Oh, the other thing too, you mentioned graffiti. They do have a graffiti wall down there because they encourage the kids to do graffiti, as long as obviously it's tasteful. If I was living in the backyard, no, I wouldn't want graffiti there. But if it was artwork, and where's the chief? Oh, he escaped me. Because he said, and maybe he didn't want it publicly, but I'll say it for him. He wanted to put a picture of the old man on the side of the white building. Shannon, I don't know if he's talked with you. Has he talked with you about that? No. So maybe in the middle of the night, they're gonna, you know, get out with. But you know, the point is, I wouldn't want graffiti there that's offensive to anybody. Artwork is one thing, graffiti is another.
Anyone else?
Yeah, it's quite obvious, Jim, that Jack, that you've made your decision about this. But we sat through the last meeting, and which was attended by a handful of invited residents who live very, very close, you say, a butt onto the area. And I actually found it a bit disappointing at the last meeting, where I came to the conclusion that you'd largely dismissed all of our concerns that we registered at that meeting. And we had Tamara in particular who said, quote, no, unquote, I have visited tens, if not hundreds of in my time, and not witnessed any of the issues that we brought up.
I didn't say that.
No.
Oh, okay.
And so during the intervening time, I've gone away and I've done a bit of research as well. I just want to share with you a few of the findings that happened in Hudson. I learned that the state park in Hudson is now closed. The background of this was initially the police increased their presence in the town skate park after a rash of vandalism and fighting. There was one incident after another, said the Parks and Recs director David Yates. That facility has been closed permanently, and thank you for bringing up pickleball, because it's now a pickleball court. Draycott. The Draycott Skateboard Park was opened in August 2006, closed just 2 months to the day that the ribbon was cut. Parents reported taking their younger children to the park only to find older kids rolling marijuana cigarettes on their finding more than a dozen in New Hampshire. In 2018, the Manchester Director of Parks was asked by to have city's help in dealing with the problems at Maple Street Skate Park. Don Pinard said there is an increase in vandalism, littering, drug, alcohol use and violence. I could go on. The Wyndham one. Wyndham Skate Park was the largest in southern New Hampshire, but selectmen ordered it to be closed until further notice because they said some of the kids who used it were not following the rules. It went on about graffiti, trash, helmets, etc., etc. That park is no longer in existence. All right. I could go on, as I say, but the evidence would suggest that our concerns are legitimate, and we would ask you to actually hear them out. And I appreciate the second opportunity to share those things, because they shouldn't be dismissed lightly. One of the other points that was raised last week for 194 Pollard Road location was the visibility of Pollard Road as well, as in people passing, so it was good for people to see. But I don't know about you, but I travel widely across this country and do regularly. And certain towns just strike you as you go into them. First of all, for the natural beauty, which hopefully you do remember for that reason. But other times you come across a nice town and there's abandoned buildings, graffiti and various other things. And it's that you actually remember about that town. It's a real sore thumb in comparison to what else is around there. So the last thing I suppose is, as we all know, Pollard Road is extensively used by us all as Lincolnites. And it's also used by out-of-towners as a rat run and a detour to the main street congestion throughout the year. I ask you whether you want this state park in 1 year, 3 years, or whatever experience, if we start to experience those similar problems to those incurred by Manchester, Draycott, Hudson, Wyndham, I ask you, is that the lasting impression you want a tourist to have of this beautiful town of Lincoln? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm Fred Garman. I live in White Birch Lane. I'm here with my wife. But Lisa's here next door. I'd like to briefly share 3 outcomes regarding talking to the neighbors in our on Mansion Hill and White Birch and also Manor Hill. Jack, your words stuck with me 2 weeks ago. You said, we will try to do the best we can for our residents. And I'm trying to believe you meant that. I really am.
Well, I do.
So we walked around our neighborhood. We stopped at homes. I'm sorry to have my back to people. I apologize. I'm gonna move over here. We started a petition and we went around and we were amazed how many people have not even heard about the 194 Pollard Road proposition. We saw tears, fears, we saw anger about this. And we've had people ask us, do you have a petition? So we hadn't thought of one, but we put it together. And we have 83 residents, taxpayers, homeowners in the area that have signed this petition that we do not want this in a residential area. The president of the Mansion Hill Condominium Association, Cheryl Ewing, expressed her concerns. And on behalf of her condominium personnel, she signed the skate park petition. It's not good for a residential area. Secondly, we reached out to the skate park local sponsors, there's about 8 of them. Some decided to remain neutral. They felt because of their position, they should stay neutral on this. Many expressed disappointment about the fact that we moved away from the riverfront park that we've talked about for years. You've got a picture of Tamara in 2019 digging the hole, you know, with broken land. And one of the people on this, local sponsors actually signed our petition, and he wrote on the petition, I want a skate park, but this needs to be thought through more. Our former police chief, involved with Lincoln town government for nearly 20 years, said in his capacity as the former chief of police of Lincoln, Pollard Road location would be a disaster. It is not good for the residential neighborhood. And there's another concern, not on our petition, that's come to light and requires risk assessment and due diligence, a genuine concern about flooding. The Blue House at 216 Pollard Road is in close proximity to the proposed park. It was required to put in a flooding mitigation system 3 years ago. You probably know about that. And the residents on the lower part of Mansion Hill Drive are good neighbors. I know some of them are here tonight, have a history of flooding in their basements. Putting in an additional 6,000 feet or more of impermeable surface, including concrete and asphalt, and removing more trees, although it may not be many, will only exacerbate their flooding problems. Have you done an impact study?
Regarding flooding,
Yes.
we have not.
Okay. It's not good for a residential area. In conclusion, these are just 3 reasons. Our petition of 83 residents in the area. The fact that the local sponsors are not in total agreement about this new location. And flooding concerns for homeowners in this vicinity. There are other reasons outlined in our petition.
Now, you as our selectmen can choose to exercise your official capacity in this town of Lincoln and wield your political power and push the skate park on our neighborhood, on these 83 residents against our petition and dismiss our valid objections. And you can place on your town website the propaganda of an outdated survey from a special interest group who gave you a grant. Or you can do the right thing, the charitable thing, and revisit and reevaluate other options. Even if it means pausing and reapplying for the grants. We thank you in advance for heeding our petition and not just doing the right thing, not just trying to do the right thing, but doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Right, you talked with the chief that was here for 20 years. The existing, excuse me, you could sit down. The existing chief is here. Chief, would you have any comments about your interaction?
Strictly from a public safety standpoint, not offering an opinion. I don't live in the neighborhood, but from a public safety standpoint, it's a great location. Because it's visible, we can see it. Now, I'm not offering that opinion or an opinion in the fact that I live there, that they're gonna be my neighbor, but from my perspective of enforcement, it's a great location. We can see everything that's happening. So I don't offer that in any respect. I respectfully disagree with the former chief. That's my opinion. But I think for our needs, it's visible, it's an open site. It's see, we don't have to go behind buildings to find people and to see what's going on. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Go ahead. Down. No, down back.
Just wondering if the chief provided that information, why he would think this is gonna be a disaster?
Because he originally lived outside of Keene in Troy. And he himself was involved in beginning a skate park in that area. And he said it started out nice with the local kids and other people came into the area. There was vandalism, there was littering, there was fighting. And so they closed the skate park. And so he had that firsthand experience. And he just feels that being a neighborhood area, it's residential. Yes, we have lodging there. Yes, we have AJ Norm, but he's a quiet old man that's inside here working the cars. This does not belong in residential area. We all agree, we like a skate park. All of you here want a skate park. I want a skate park. It just has to be put in the right location. This is not the right location. You wouldn't want this in your backyard. Sure. Dawn to dusk.
All right.
Wrong.
Next two people are gonna call Jay and then Brian.
Thank you. Jay Duguay. I live on Pollard Road. I just like to register my support for the new location. I think it's a great idea. I think, as we all know, almost all of our residential neighborhoods are on that side of Main Street. Kids won't have to cross the street to get to the skate park, whether they're skating, biking, or whatever to get there. I think that represents a move towards more safety when we're just coming to and from the skate park. I think the concerns about the senior center, I mean, if we look at Plymouth, and I think Mr. Daly mentioned that he spoke with the chief of police in Plymouth and they don't have any issues. And I believe that they're cited right next door to the senior center in Plymouth down by the river as well. So I think that concern, that won't be a concern with our location. I think also that the characterization of that neighborhood as residential, I think ignores the fact that there's at least 5 Airbnbs based on what I checked. So there's at least 5 people running small businesses out of their homes in that area. I think that has an impact on the residential nature of that neighborhood. We have a senior center, a daycare center, an inn, a hostel, and an automotive shop, all abutting that same lot. And so I think the characterization as a residential neighborhood ignores the obvious mixed use that's already going on there. And so the addition of additional recreational opportunities for our kids, and let's be honest, our town is built on tourism. Outsiders coming in is what this community is about. That's not going to negatively impact anybody. And I think it's a great election. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Brian?
this information so that not only the board. But I'd like to I can see that this particular issue is rather complex. Like other folks that have spoken before, I have no opposition to a skateboard park. I think what I'm going to try to share with you folks tonight is a pathway and create a solution that will create harmony for the community and not create division in possibly one neighborhood versus another neighborhood. So that's sort of like where I'm coming from. And I'd like to start with a little history. Not that I was good in it in high school, but when the town of Lincoln was presented this master plan several years ago, when the vision for the park down by the NH River was created. It was done by a professional firm, SE Engineering, which I believe is based out of Utah. Very, very reputable firm, and I think folks can see that a lot of information and a lot of clarity was put into it. Certainly, hats off to the selectmen for doing the due diligence in terms of creating a plan that people can understand and see what the vision is. I happen to have been fortunate to work with this company last year when a master plan was done down at Gunstock Mountain Resort. And I know that they're very, very credible. My concern is that in this hearing, in the hearing before this, no particular plan seems to be available for folks to understand what might be happening. There's been a conceptual discussion about where it could be located, but something like this helps to give the voter an understanding of what's really going to happen. You can see that in phase one of the plan, the parking, the skate park, the multi-use trails, the restrooms, the playground, the canoe launch, and the stormwater were identified and sort of laid out. And then the rest of the plan for phase two here is also laid out. I won't say it. I sort of bring that to your attention because I think this is such a critical decision that in planning, personal preferences shouldn't drive the decision making. With that, I had the opportunity over the last week or so to do a little research, and in your indulgence, OJ, I'd like to share it. And I know because you play pickleball with my wife, you got my okay to signal her and bring the hook out, so I'll stop talking. Fred had said a little bit earlier, have impact studies been done? Anyone that does a large project, a commercial project, a residential project, they do research to make sure that certain factors won't impede the dollar investment for that particular adventure. Certainly, Jack, I don't dispute that you've spent time on sitting on Pollard Road and possibly counting cars at different times of the day, and that certainly do bring knowledge from your background. But my question to the Board of Selectmen is, have any impact studies, real ones, on traffic, real estate assessments, stormwater problems? Has any of that information been done prior to the board considering such a complex decision?
I don't want to answer for you, but I believe the answer is no. Alternate locations. A couple things I'm going to say are not going to be popular, but it's not about being popular. It's about trying to get one's minds around a complex issue. As a resident of Pollard Road, the board, and I give the board credit, sent out a notice and invited us to the first meeting. And the board also sent out a beautiful diagram on the houses in the area in the space. After spending a little time looking at it and understanding where the proposal was to possibly put the plan, I noticed next door that the largest piece of land that abuts this happens to be the school property. And I certainly know that there'll be plenty of comments on why something like this, which involves children, which is an athletic activity, wouldn't be proper on school property. I sort of understand that, and I get that, but I bring it out because I think
Excuse me, but this is Paul Bowden. Excuse me, this is Paul Bowden, and we have lost the video feed, the audio portion of it.
Yes or neither. If he doesn't answer, you can't hear us.
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
No, I
Tara.
did, but-
All right. Go ahead, Ryan.
okay, what I want to share with you is some of the folks in this room here may subscribe to this. I got my copy this week. Business New Hampshire, the February edition. And what was wonderful about it is I opened it up to the middle and there's a feature article on the town of Lincoln. And it highlighted all of the positive things that are going on in Lincoln. And it also took comments from folks that are some of the leaders here in Lincoln. I only want to focus upon one. Mr. Kevin Bell, who's very much involved in the skate park board part thing, the marketing director at Loon, is quoted as saying this. Kevin Bell, vice president of marketing for Loon Mountain, says the facilities gondola was the four-season attraction going back to Sherm Adams' day. Still the town, back to Sherm Adams' day. Zip lines were built a decade ago and Ninja Wild and obstacle courts that's appealing to my 6-year-old son, and a zip line were added to Loon Mountain Resort. Why do I bring this up? I bring it up just as another alternative for folks to consider on possibly creating a partnership with a very successful corporation that has a recreational area that services our children, where noise is sort of happening and it doesn't seem to bother the community. And the footprint that's being described does not seem extraordinarily out of place for a facility like that. So it sort of got me thinking. And there's a person that I had the privilege to spend some time with when I was down at Gunstock. And this gentleman happened to be the CEO at Stone Mountain Resorts. And he spent 10 years up there creating the vision of Stone Mountain Resorts. So I asked him about skateboard parks, just for the heck of it. And I'd like to share his response with you. This gentleman's name is Gary Kadash, and he was the CEO of Stone Mountain Resorts for at least 10 years, and it could have been longer. I built a major skateboard park in Stowe. It was on a beginner's ski hill that we paved and had a bowl at the bottom to absorb the speed and bring everyone to a stop. We set up a special lift that boarders could grab and ride their board up the hill. It was a big success and a huge PR vehicle. We then let in the skaters in the park and set up slalom courses on the hill. It would always be sold out because we could only let so many folks in.
Sold out. That's the key word in the whole conversation.
If I can just, if I
Let
can
him finish.
continue
Sorry,
with the
Brian.
thought process, sir. Certainly a opportunity to put this kind of entity sense. Certainly the ability for the local children in this community to use something like that, consideration needs to be taken, not to charge them to use it, but to work out a partnership with something like Loon Mountain and possibly the donors to the park to provide complimentary ticketing for the children if they were to use this. At the same time, the mountain resort should be entitled to raise some revenues if they were so kind to allow this kind of a thing to go on the facility. So it's sort of a balance of understanding what affects each community and seeing if folks can come together as partners. OJ, you hit the nail on the head earlier. Proposed park. There's a contamination problem. I think everybody can understand that, and everybody needs to realize that any other parts of that particular park most likely will not go forward unless that problem is solved. I give Tamara credit, and several times in the public that I've been involved in, she has brought to the Board of Selectmen the idea of hiring a grant writer for small money in order to help raise money that wouldn't be taxpayer dollars to solve some problems. I'd like to suggest that you consider her idea to do that, and I'd like to offer you 4 different sources where that person could start working on securing money to take care of that contamination problem. And when I link this all together, it will make some sense, because where I started is where I expect to end. But, and I think Karina is probably familiar with a group that's called Northern Border Regional Commission. This is a group in the northern part of the state that sets aside millions of dollars for projects for municipalities, nonprofits, private businesses, for all good causes. If someone were to work with Governor Shaheen and Congressman Pappas's office, they could lead this grant writer to the process of putting in consideration for money to correct this problem down that you're hoping with the brownfield grant. What I'm suggesting is we don't put all our eggs in one basket. We need to look at multiple sources to raise money in order to be able to solve that problem. And I would guess that most folks in this room realize that problem has to be solved. The second thing I would,
Brian, can I just,
yes,
because this hasn't been said,
Yeah.
but before you go on. We agreed, the board voted to hire the engineering company, the name of it, to Novus to monetize the expected monetization of the cleanup effort. And once that is done, it's gonna go to our town engineer that we have on contract, Ray Corber, to do a similar thing that you're doing. He's not a grant writer, but he's going to put together all the information needed. So we've taken the first step. We can't apply for the grant unless we know what we're cleaning up, how much it's gonna cost,
How we're cleaning it up.
how we're cleaning it, what the process is. And we want to get that approved by DES so that we go to the grants, plural. We will already know what we need to do and the expected cost of that. So we're going down this route. You don't need to talk us into doing that. If that's what your next step is here.
well, no, that's not my next step. My next step was just to outline for the general public other opportunities. And I'll do it very quickly, this section. I'll move on to the other 2
Please.
points and then I'll sort of get out of here. There's also an organization in Concord called the New Hampshire Charitable Trust Foundation. In that particular group sponsors not only educational, recreational, environmental projects that have merit to it. So once again, it's another opportunity to seek funding to correct this problem. And, finally, I saw your state representative here today from Lincoln in the room. He sits on the Grafton County delegation, and the county commissioners in Grafton are the folks that are responsible for those funds that came into the county and into the town during the pandemic. It would be certainly another option to ask your representative to speak with the Grafton County Commissioners to see if there are any undesignated, unspent funds that could be redirected to Lincoln in order to, once again, just help in this particular remediation in order to be able to get the park to continue to go forward. As somebody had pointed out, back in June of 2019, when there was the groundbreaking for the Riverfront Park, and everyone was excited, and it's good to be excited about. I just want to go back to what was said so that we can all sort of remember what was said. It's said that already blessed with many actions and amenities, the town on Monday began adding another groundbreaking at Riverfront Park. The park will be built in phases over 5 to 10 years and will include a skateboard park, multi-use trails, playground, canoe launch, and a dog park. Well, we're certainly short of the five years, and we're certainly short of the 10 years. I guess my point to the board is a decision quickly to relocate one sector of this master plan to another location where there's a fair amount of community that is not excited about it. I would just suggest and caution moving that quickly on that and sticking to the original plan, the original vision, which is a good vision, that this would be a 5 to 10 year plan. When that particular blue ribbon took place, these are some of the things that people said. Pam said she was thrilled that the park would appeal to a broad range of users, while Board of Selectmen Chairman O.J. Robertson earlier said the strong turnout for the groundbreaking represented the support for this project. Kevin Bell, who was Loon Mountain's marketing director and a member of the Linwood Skate Park Committee, said Riverfront Park will be transformational for Lincoln. I think he's right. I think he's right. What I'd like to just finish up with, and I'm going to wrap up with it, is what is the big deal in doing the due diligence to make sure that things have to be moved out of the master plan in a short time frame to satisfy one component of it? Because as that occurs, you're basically unraveling the master plan for the park. And the master plan for the park is for the whole community. It's not for one composition of the community. So I guess I would urge the board, as the word was used a little bit earlier tonight, to take a pause on making a decision on this particular issue and spend time not to get something done, but yeah.
All right, 1 minute, Vicky.
Just 2 seconds, Brian. First of all, you mentioned about, the proximity to the school. We have a school there now. And that lends itself, as the chief and I were talking today, the drug offense within a school zone is not just a slap on the wrist. It's substantial. It's 1,000 feet. Am I correct, chief, on that?
Yeah, New Hampshire RSA says 1,000 feet from school property. So
So in other words, as far as drugs go, I think forget it. The other thing you said about, changing a whole plan to satisfy one group. Well, that gives us another opportunity. If when we did something and do move it to the road location, the pickleball courts could go and replace those over in the master plan. I mean, plans are ever evolving, life is ever evolving for all of us. So consequently, we don't have to be stuck with that plan. I mean, maybe they were looking for Jimmy Hoffa's body. I don't know when they dug, I wasn't there. But the point is, let's not jump into something without diligence, which we're doing. If we get into the ground, the first shovel goes into the ground, we have a test boring that says, geez, you've got water contamination problems, or you've got some problems there. We have to resolve that before we move forward. Then at that point in time, maybe we do have to move to another site. But, I've heard from a lot of the people in this room, I've heard from negative and positive. And again, at this point in time, I think that that's the appropriate site to be.
If I may respond.
No, I want to get other people a chance. There's just too many people in this room. Vicky,
Their opinion. First of all, I'm Vicky Martin. I live on Pollard Road. I grew up on Pollard Road. I sat on the Riverfront Planning Committee when we sat down and we tried to make that. I think we're getting like caught in the weeds and getting distracted by a lot of things. Everybody loves the Riverfront Park idea. Everybody is in support of the Riverfront Park idea, but realistically speaking, we're talking about a $6 million police station. When are we ever going to have the money to start developing the Riverfront Park? For 20 years, we've been talking about getting a skate park in this town, since my mother was selectman. We've been talking about getting a skate park in this town and trying to get something together. We have a dedicated group of people who've spent over 10 years raising money. They finally raised enough money to do it. And the site that we had agreed that they could use is not going to be usable. We don't have $1 million to clean it up. And, in the meantime, not just the people on the skate park committee, but the kids who were anxiously awaiting the skate park have grown up and gone to college and moved away. How many generations of kids in this town are going to have to wait, for opportunity for a skate park location for it? It's very visible. It's right close to the school. It is near a lot of residential neighborhoods, although I agree with my brother, it's not in a residential only neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot of other things going on in that neighborhood. There's a community center, there's the childcare center, there's all of the things that were mentioned before. This is a safe place for kids to actually get there and use it. And we can talk about these historical skate parks and problems that have happened in them. But really, I think a lot of these concerns are antiquated concerns. You know, I spend a lot of time with my kids at skate parks now. I have 4 young boys. We've been to a bunch of them. We went to a couple of beautiful ones in Alaska. We spent a bunch of time. We spent some time in Plymouth, a bunch of time in Lebanon. These parks these days are a central part of what a community puts together as their like shared green space and their community space and their residential space. It's not some deviant counterculture, which is this like very antiquated view of what skateboarding is. If you go and spend some time with a skate park today, what you'll see is there's just as many bikes and scooters as there are skateboards, that most of the kids are middle school age or younger, and then it's mostly families there. So, you know, we're looking at this spot that's like really well trafficked between the community center, between the people living there, between the proximity to the road and the visibility. It's a great concerns I'm hearing. And vandalism and all this stuff. I think of this as like a playground, because it is like a playground. These days, a skate park is like a playground. If you go to Lebanon, there's a skate park, there's a picnic pavilion, there's a playground. It's all the same people using those same 3 things. If you were a neighbor in that neighborhood and we were talking about putting in a playground, would you be this concerned that we were putting in a playground? So that's kind of the first thing is, I just think that's an antiquated concern. The other thing I keep hearing from people in the neighborhood who are concerned about it is safety. Who's going to be monitoring this? Who's going to be watching this? Who's going to be keeping an eye? Well, it's just like the basketball hoops at the Kang, or the basketball hoops at the school, or the playground of the school when it's not open. It's a playground. It's a recreational facility. It's not expected that somebody's going to be there all the time. And if you go up to the school basketball court, you're going to hear people swearing. You know, you're going to hear they're teenagers. They're going to talk like that. If it's teenagers there, it's just, I think it's 2 things. I think it's an antiquated view of what skateboarding is and what these skate parks are, because they're really more like a playground than they are like what people are envisioning. And then the other piece is the safety issue. If the concern was really safety, then we wouldn't have people saying, put it in the industrial park, put it behind the strip mall, put it up at Loon. They would be saying, if we're really concerned about the safety and kids behaving appropriately and us making sure we're taking care of the children in this community, let's put it somewhere central where everyone's looking at it. Not out behind a strip mall or out at the industrial park, or, you know, and that's been the biggest concern at Plymouth, by the way. If you talk to people at Plymouth skate park is in the middle of nowhere by a bunch of propane tanks, and they've had more trouble there than these other places. Oh, I gotta take my kids to the tank. Sorry, thanks. I gotta take my kids to the tank though. They're waiting. Yes.
Is anyone having spoken? I don't, go ahead.
The gentleman that just talked over there talked about Blue Mountain. How are the kids gonna get up there? The parents gonna take time to bring them up there?
No money.
Or they're gonna skateboard the bike trail all the way down there? And it really doesn't matter where the skateboard is, as far as I'm concerned. I get it. Last meeting, everybody's saying, well, you know, there ought to be a time limit as to when it's open, when kids can be there. I suggested a security fence, little locked gate. That gate's unlocked at a certain time, it's locked at a certain time. That's when you can use it. And a little off from the skateboard park. I may be wrong, and you know, I've been wrong before, but you're putting 2 more hotels on the main street of Lincoln. So one of these days, because that is a state highway, the state's gonna come in and say 2 lanes to Blue Mountain, 2 lanes to the interstate. That would be a perfect place for municipal parking for this town, instead of using it as a skateboard park, something else. Part of that ought to be for municipal parking. It's gonna come. It may come.
Thank you, Tara.
Like
Plus I've been getting texts from Chief Smith did write for the grant. And I won't read the whole thing, but it was for the Tony Hawk Foundation grant. Where he starts with this, my pleasure to write a letter of support for proposal of the skate park and the committee requesting a grant from the foundation to make this park a reality. It goes on to say that. I'm just saying that his support then was for a park. Not specific location, you are correct. He wanted me to read that in part to let you know that he did originally support that grant application. Other comments that I just feel the need to reply to. I started in 98. This is my 25th winter. I, at the public hearing in 2015, made a timeline of how often groups of young kids came to me with the launch for a skate park in this community. The first one started in 2001. Then a different group came with Sean O'Brien and Adapt in 2005. Then from 2005 to 2008, we started meeting with the Still Now committee. So that's how dedicated this group has been to seeing this become a reality. The kids in 2001 are grown and have kids of their own. So I don't want anybody to feel like this is a rush thing that we're trying to get through. With regards to not having a beautiful plan to present, that's kind of on me. I do have a surveyor that is donating a plan at the moment, and I apologize, this is really sad. What we've done is a soil study to show what the soils are for the skate park design committee, because they wanted to make sure that the soil is actually appropriate for this type of structure. So what we have, and anybody that would like to see this afterwards in a bigger format, is fine, but, and I don't know if you can see, but this is the lot perimeter. This is the existing parking lot, and this is the size of the structure we're talking about. So it's roughly about half the size of the existing paved parking lot. It is, as OJ mentioned, 60 by 100. It's about the size of the community garden, which goes to part of the reason that we just thought that we needed to bring this up at a couple of public meetings is, to be honest, we've never brought anything before the public before that we've done with the property. When we bought the property, Rotary helped us buy half of it. The childcare center was already there. The senior services then came into the building to become leaseholders. We've added the community garden. We've added 30 streaming kindergarten through 5th graders every day for our after school program. So all of these things we've just kind of gone with selectmen approval. Obviously talk to our leaseholders to make sure that we're not impeding on their needs for the property as well. But all of these things have just been under the recreation umbrella. So they've never been things that have gone outside of those discussions. So I really do appreciate everybody's feedback. I know there was a comment about you felt that you weren't being heard, and I have a list from last time's meeting, of things to watch out for and discuss, and I've already discussed a couple of them with the people that would be into those things. And there was one more. So the memorandum of understanding that came out after the 2015 public hearing, Jack had asked about what the town had agreed to. So basically, what we agreed to that we would still hold true at any location was to offer the land for the skate park to go on and basically help them clear that land and get that land ready for the skate parks to go in on. So as far as like allocating town funds towards it, it's still completely fundraised for, completely donated, no tax dollars. With the exception that for my staff, it's a lot easier for us to look out the window and see people outside. I've discussed many camping opportunities in our parking lot. We're constantly going out and greeting people and asking, what they're doing there. But Shannon's got eyes on the building as well. And I see her nodding and she'll say like, is this guy coming for you or us or, so between and Maria is the senior services program director. So between the three of us, there's many different groups that have eyes. Whenever you put kids or seniors at risk, we are all monitoring everything that goes on in that parking lot. We also have motion activated cameras on the back and the side of the building. So those go off anytime there's motion around our building. And as far as one more thing, I know I'm trying to be brief, sorry, about the fencing. And that was I was asked to reach out to Primex, our insurance company. And they said, obviously they cover skate parks all the time. They recommend signage. if we do end up going with the pool design, they call it, they would recommend fencing around that, and I've heard that brought up a couple times for safety concerns as well. Their recommendation, as well as ours from the beginning, was dusk to dawn, that we, that's what we do for the sledding hill over at Hank. That's just what works, is, you know, you don't want loud music, these guys don't want to have to deal with late night concerns, as well. So, and there would be no increased cost to our insurance unless there was a negligent claim based on negligence. So what they explained was somebody had a part that had a broken piece. It was more like a ramps and things like that. They knew it was broken, they didn't replace it. Whereas this is a more maintenance-free design, they don't see that as being a problem. And I don't know if you want to add this to your letter, but Jane gave this to me that Heather Curl had to leave, but wanted to voice her support.
Sure.
Okay, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Karen.
Karen Gallagher, 181 College Road. I have a question. You thinking that you are at the center? Is that where you're from? Okay.
I am the recreation.
Okay,
So
and have your eyes on the parking lot, you know, so you're always looking. But are you there from dawn to dusk?
I am, some days it feels like it. Sabrina just yelled at me about my time chickens lately, but yeah.
Because that's how long it's gonna be open.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be a lot of time when nobody's really watching because it's dawn to dusk.
I would guess that you're there. Shannon's there before I get there in the morning. She's there at dawn and I handle the dust part.
Summertime. The summertime is 8:30.
If it's not
9:30.
9:30. You up there that late?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, because that's a long span of time. And what I also realized that the Kank, which used to be open and kids could go up there at any time, and just, I understand now that there's a rule that if you're under 12, you're not there without parents, correct?
No, that was just during COVID when our building was.
So anybody can be
When
dropped
they
off.
didn't have a place to go warm up, that was.
So now kids, be very young, kids can be dropped off.
Yeah.
Okay, because I had heard otherwise. I had heard that under 12, and I thought, is that same rule going to apply at the skateboard park?
We've had kids multiple all the time.
Oh, so it's
We
now.
just asked the parents to give us an emergency number, but we have most of them.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Good. I get people down back, Paul. I know you've already spoken, so I want to give other people a chance. I don't know your name in the middle down back.
Oh, hi, I'm Felicity Pelley. I just want to say, a couple quick things. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people have done a lot of research. A lot of these, and look, you can't give me anything in this world that has ever worked perfectly. There's daycares that have not worked. There's nursing homes that have not worked. But it seems like a lot of these instances where skate parks have not worked are in much bigger places, Keene and Manchester, or I can't remember, Houston, where Jen Bailey has gone and looked at Littleton, Bethlehem. So you cannot guarantee that it's gonna work. But statistically speaking, I mean, I think that we're gonna have a much better probability of the outcome that these smaller communities have than say Manchester or Keene. And honestly, you know, I not really like a skate park outside of my house, but I would much rather see a skate park with this community, these children going and having fun and laughing than another hotel or a parking lot for somebody else other than our community. You know, these are people, our bread and butter, but let's do something for these kids. You know, I'm sick of seeing condos and, you know, the new resort being thought of. And anybody who really thinks that, you know, these skate parks are going to, you know, maybe encourage our kids to be more miscreants, I would implore you to just go to some of these big skate parks that are actually going on right now, you know, that are not far away. Go to Plymouth for half an hour. And you'll see these little tiny kids. Can you imagine a little 6-year-old girl who's having trouble trying to do an ollie? And the amount of joy and like inspiration she's gonna get, the whole skate park will get together. They'll cheer her on, and you might see yourselves fair words, but a lot of times you're gonna feel like hearing cheers and like happiness and laughter.
Thank you, Felicity.
Oh, well.
My name is Jason Laventine. I'm one of the members of the skate park committee, so we're the ones who made money in those skate parks. And I just want to touch on a couple of things that we've really focused on while we've been working on the design and ideas about the skate park. And one of them is accessibility. So we want to make a skate park that's accessible to anyone who wants to use it at any time that it's open. So these ideas about moving it to loot and charging and all that, like that's not really in theme with like what we're trying to do and what we're going to create for this community. And then another thing I just want to touch on, I'm not going to talk for a super long time, so I'm going to be pretty quick, is that I've worked pretty closely with Pillar Design
design for the skate park, and this is a place where you can bring a small child or a brand new skater who's never skated before, and they can actually learn to skate at this place. And the purpose of that is so that families can come here with their kids and actually do this activity together and be able to participate in it. So that is the focus of the skate park. This isn't some gnarly skate park. We're gonna have people from all these other cities wanting to come here because it's like got these cool features. It's a low level intermediate skate park that young kids can come to and learn to skate at. And also, if we want to talk about the sound study that we had mentioned, I think someone said it was outdated sound study from 2009 that talked about how a skate park is no louder than a playground. I mean, I don't think sound ages, so you can't really be like an outdated study. So the study is still pretty valid because they measured the actual sound of skateboarding at a skate park opposed to the actual sound of a playground, and they were comparable. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just a couple quick things and great speakers, honestly, it is very informative. And I do agree with your fence idea as well, putting that around regardless of where it's at. I'm just off Pollard Road, so I'm actually in that area. And Pollard Road's very long, it's a mile at least, so not everyone on Pollard Road is actually going to be affected by it, but I actually am. This dawn to dusk thing is, I mean, I think we should definitely look at those hours and narrow them. I think 9:30 at night, which is dusk in the summer, is not good. That's way too late. It is a residential area. The other thing is, I live right by a stop sign. And during like a 3-day weekend, granted, a very busy 3-day weekend, there's over 1,000, and I'll comment with you if you like, there's over 1,000 cars per day that run that stop sign. 1,000. And I'll be happy to count it with you. And that's just a fact. And something needs to be done about that whole street as far as traffic mitigation. It's absurd, honestly. The last thing is, I think the master plan is great. It's awesome. And I think we ought to stick with that. I think the petition with 83 people on it and the people who support the skate park would love to see a warrant at the town meeting asking for a mitigation of those contaminants and vote on that. And if not, and I know we don't necessarily have the exact study, but we can certainly do a resolution. So, I mean, on both sides of this issue, there's 4 or 5, maybe 600 people who would vote for that, and it would not become an issue. So I would propose that you put something forth like that and just negate the whole thing completely.
Thank you, John.
Oh, just one response to that. Even the experts have indicated they don't know what's down there. That's literally the tip of the iceberg to mitigate what they have already discovered. They don't know, and the feeling was, that there's more to it than meets the eye, so to speak.
Right, and I understand we have to do a test, but you haven't said that you're going to do a test at the other site either.
We just said, Tara, I think indicated.
That was for foundational things, not for contaminants.
No, Tara said.
Soils.
It's just the soil types. It's just the soil types that she talks about.
No, I fully understand that. We're not in.
I mean, if you do one site, you should do the same thing for the other site.
I would disagree with that. That's not customary here. That's not customary at all. Do you do a soil sample 10 feet deep on every building you build?
No, you do it for structural purposes.
Then why don't you do this place over there?
Because that's why they did it over
Already
there.
documented
It's a
contamination.
I'm just saying you should apply the same process uniformly.
We do. If it's a documented contaminated site, we dig because we have to. We never voted to do it. We have to do it. If it's not a documented contaminated site, just like every building that's going up, you don't. Riverwalk was built on a contaminated site. They had to do it because it was a documented, registered contamination site. The whatever hotel is being conceptualized and hasn't been approved yet, that's going right next door, will have to do it on their site. Okay. Okay, so those are the rules.
No,
And we-
and
and we-
I didn't,
and
and
we-
I didn't know
okay.
that. Thank you for telling
We're
me.
applying it.
You know, I learned something.
Okay.
I still think we ought to put forward a warrant or resolution with all the voters that we have, so we can make those toxins and put it at the original riverfront park that we planned.
Roger,
Can we do that with can we still, is there still time to put a warrant on?
no, it's way past the time to do that. Roger,
Why isn't there room up the Kank area to put this in? You know where they worked at the parking lot, they made the parking lot bigger, that back is a big plateau up there. Probably 300 feet by 600 feet, at least, just look at that. Where the old ski jump, used to go to the old ski jump.
Mhm.
It's a nice spot to have it at.
I think one of the reasons, and I won't speak for the group, but one of the reasons, Roger, when they started to expand the parking lot, you saw all those boulders that they were pulling out of there. I mean, they didn't know what to do with them. I don't know, Jimmy,
That's
whether you
where-
bought any for any foundation work, but they were trying to sell them off. I mean, it's
That's where we put,
massive.
if you go back further, you ain't gonna run into that.
I don't know. Again, you're older than I, so you could speak to that. I don't know.
yeah,
Keep it simple.
Oh, but I mean, it won't take long to go up there with the backhoe, take 3 or 4 holes, you're gonna see what you got and get up there, but it's a nice spot.
you want to talk about the,
With the parking lot expansion, we did take quite a bit of our property. It does quite jog back towards the tow hut. So it's not as big up there. We don't own as much as we thought we did at the top up there.
Where's that
But-
ski jump? Who's laying that on? The town had a ski jump there for years.
Yeah, I don't know if we had it surveyed before then, or if we just didn't care. And we also had a neighbor on Forest Road
Survey
that
it. How
used
much-
to ski over. Property, but, a couple of the other concerns were that we do close that property during summer camp hours, because the kids are all over that property, and we didn't want to have to close the park during the peak tourist seasons during the summer. And the other is, it's not very easy for you guys to drive through the parking lot and see if anybody's up there. We would have to put a road essentially going up there to check it out. But we did, that was
we
our
did
site visit as well,
discuss.
a couple different times.
Well, how much use does the ball field get up there?
They still do rec ball.
Yeah,
They still play ball there, and again,
Only one
in
place
the,
is a-
in the summertime, the program
was there.
takes up that whole facility. So it's basically closed from what, 8
AM to 4 PM.
So 4 PM, and we're gonna close it dusk or before, so that's a pretty. Minor window, you can't get there before 4 and you have to go home by 8. Any other comments, Jim?
Yeah, I think, well, Jim Martin, and my business is one of the major donors for the skate park, and I certainly don't feel that I donated knowing that it was gonna be at the future park there, and I think Pollard Road's a great location. It's in an area the kids can get to. You know, it's just accessible, it's nice, it's in open view for supervision. We can agree on hours and stuff later. I think all that's pretty manageable, and I just think it's a great spot, and I think we should get this thing rolling. That these guys put all this work in for so long, and it's been dragged out. And if that park happens down there, there's plenty of other things that can go there. Could be parking, could be a park, who knows, but that's a great spot that the town owns that can be used, where people can get to it easily. They can scooter there, they can skateboard there. Parents are the ones that get a lot of these little kids places, and that's easy. So that's my opinion.
All right, Spencer.
Spencer, I live on Mission Hill. A little biased because I have kids that'll use the skate park, but I feel like hiding skate parks is probably why they become abandoned. And I feel like with the community that we have, I feel like it's gonna be up to us to keep it a safe place for our kids to go, and I think that we'll do that. And I think it'll keep graffiti and drugs out of your park. So,
And you're also one of the abutters,
sort of, yeah.
one space in between,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's not.
He's in the
He's actually-
residential neighborhood. Yeah, 80 people have signed the petition surrounding him. Blair. Oh. Sorry, Blair?
Very bottom.
Yeah. Oh,
Blair Whedon. I'm also fairly close to where they're proposing to put the park. I'm in agreement. I think that it's a great location. I think the reason why we're building this park, right? It's not necessarily for the tourists. It is for the local kids. And I think 90% of the people that are gonna be using that park are gonna be the same kids that are up at the Kank ski slope, using the Kank ski slope. And it's gonna be their parents with them, or it'll be the older brothers and sisters or their cousins with. It's gonna be the same group of kids. That's gonna be 90% of people that use this park. It's gonna be a concrete park. I've skated in parks my whole life. I taught my kids to skateboard and inline skate and scooter. I still go to parks with them and skate with them. I go to Lebanon, I've been to Plymouth, I go to Waterville Park. We do that throughout the summer. And I agree with Vicky when she said, and I used to skate and compete when I was younger, and it was a different culture there. The culture has fully gone towards the direction because they're starting to put these parks now in more visible places that are safer places, that are more communal-based places to make the park safer for the younger kids. And it brings more families in, and it makes it more visible for the police to actually go by patrol and, you know, have a communal sight on what's going on there. I think if you put it out back behind the mill somewhere, it would be a beautiful spot, but I don't think it's gonna get used as much. And I also think that more is gonna go down there that of the type of things that you don't want small children to be there trying to skate there and learning how to skate, because there is gonna be, you know, 6 or 8 punk kids from outside of town doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing now. I think the kids that are local kids that are even teenagers aren't gonna be going to a park that is that visible at the community center doing anything they shouldn't be doing. They know better, and they're gonna want to go there and have a good time and have it stay open. So I think those concerns, I don't think are gonna be, you know, you can never say it, but I don't think those are gonna be legitimate concerns with it. As far as noise, you know, you have your VVR rental right there and people partying there till 10 o'clock at night outside. I don't think that park's gonna be any louder. You have the community center kids there, you have the after school programs there. I don't think we're adding any noise there. And like I said, I've been to a bunch of different parks that are that size park. And at most you'll have 20 kids there, and it's usually 5 kids. So I don't see like this massive party scene going down at this concrete skate park. I think this is a little small concrete fixed skate park for the community kids. And I don't think you're gonna have the perceivable issues that some people are concerned about. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
hey guys, are you able to hear me?
Who's,
Yeah.
yeah, I see Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
My name is Casey Jones. I live off of Pollard Road on Boyle Street. I would consider myself somewhat of a subject matter expert on skate parks. To touch on some of the points from both sides of the parties here, I think there is not more of a self-governing group of people than a skate park community, especially when you have people that have spent the last 20, 15, 10 years of their lives trying to get this park put into place. If they see acts of vandalism or bullying or anything like that going on, this subculture of people that kind of live and grew up in this skate park world do not allow that. I believe somebody had mentioned something about the age gap of people between the daycare and after school events that take place there. If you haven't been to a skate park, you might not understand it. And I totally get that. But this is just one area where you can be 17 years old and 6 years old and get along and, you know, continue to grow the sport. And, you know, from someone who kind of takes that as a really serious matter, I think it would be just great for the community. I'm sure there's even a ton of people that would volunteer time, such as myself, you know, to do an after school program. You know, I think there's probably a ton of people in this room that feel the same way, but yeah, that's my 2 cents. I'll keep it pretty short.
Casey, thank you. Paul,
Yeah, thank you. Look, it's been an interesting night listening to everybody here, you've had quite a diverse crowd tonight. And I think that what you've heard is, you've heard local people and how they feel about their children and where they want to go and what they want to do with regards to the skateboard park. But you've also heard new residents who've come in and said, who have been in other communities and they've had experiences and they don't like them. But I think that this board and other boards have done things that, like at town meeting, have had non-binding referendum votes. So I think that it would be interesting at town meeting night to be able to have a non-binding referendum and let those who want it and those who don't come in and vote. People who have a stake in the community come in and say, yes, we want it, and or no, we don't. I mean, just like all three of you, the selectmen, you probably have different viewpoints. Maybe, I don't know, but I know, it would be very interesting. Like the land in back of my house. I mean, you brought that up at a town meeting. I mean, and it was done by a non-binding referendum, and actually, that was a warrant article, but let the people speak, let the people be heard. Tonight you had your referendum was great. People came out, but their vote really didn't count, I guess. Because the only way it could count is if the three of you tonight said, this is the way it's going to be. But I think that it would seem to me that the people who live in this town and have a vote would like to be able to see that count. And my opinion or my suggestion to you tonight would be, try that out. See what happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, a few people. Go ahead. I don't know your name.
Nathan.
Oh, Nathan. Oh, you're okay. I'm sorry. I saw half of Tracy's head in there. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I myself and my wife live up on US Route 3 in North Lincoln. As somebody who works with youth in this town, whether it be from a religious standpoint, as a youth pastor, or in different programs, I coached high school soccer for many years, as well as a freestyle ski and snowboard program. Much of what I do is take a perception as there's the same perception that you have about skier or skateboarders is also around freestylers and snowboarders. We're dubbed park rats, as people usually call us, and some of that is valid. I will admit. A lot of what I have tried to do is take people's perceptions of what freestyle, skiers and snowboarders are, and change them. One, through the active, being on the ground with them. Like I said, if you know me, I'm in with kids all the time. If you ever come to the kink, there's usually a couple of them following me around. Same thing at Loon. We host, different programs that we do at Loon, as well as at the kink, doing freestyle skiing and snowboarding. And so I will say, getting kids into the outdoors and recreation and being there with them and leading them through that, I feel like one is a huge step towards taking perceptions that we have of skateboarders or freestyle skiers and snowboarders or whatever your perceptions are of a people group, and change those. And I can tell you that the location that's being requested not only is good, I think it's much better than the one at the riverfront. I was excited about the skate park being a thing no matter what, because you can bet I will be there doing something with kids at it. But my concerns, even with that part, were just the fact that it was a little out of the way. Now, I'm willing to wipe that under the rug because I'm going to get there and I'm going to be with kids. And I want to teach them how to be responsible and be safe about progression in a sport or whatever, all that stuff. I can't think of a better location that's more visible, more accessible, that will actually see kids use it than right in the center of town, where it will be, or where it's being proposed.
And so I am in a lot of support of this location, and you can guarantee that myself will probably be there with kids following me around, so, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Lou?
I also support the new location. I think everything that people have said in support, has already been said. I guess maybe one thought that I would add is, say like 20 years ago when I was most into the sport, I didn't have a skate park in my town, and so, but I was a diehard skateboarder, and so that drove me to go to different businesses and properties and use the features there, whether it be stair sets or ledges or handrails, and to deface them instead. And so I would propose that a skate park, one, it's not just gonna create that. If kids love to skateboard, they're gonna find places to skateboard. I think we're starting off in a good place and almost like an introduction of a healthy way to express themselves using the sport. And instead of like creating this creating a place for this negative perception or negative participation, I think it's actually the opposite. Yeah.
Thank you. Tammy, did you want to say something?
She said she has bad service, but she wanted to bring up the fact that, that due to the timeliness issue, that they stand to lose 80,000 in grants if they don't have this done quickly, was the impetus to moving forward quickly.
Exactly. Okay, Brian?
I'm just gonna be quick. I'm Brian Angelone. I live on Church Street. Apparently he's like within that same realm. I'm discovering how big this realm has gotten because we brought in garnished signatures from people. And I was just, I wonder who the people were that signed the petition, because I do know that there's a few people that are really close to that over in that Mansion Hill area, and I feel like they weren't approached to sign a petition. Just because you chose the proper people to sign petitions, and we've seen that before in this town. Where you didn't go door to door, you didn't hit up the people that are living directly next to the location and stuff. Well, you skipped the Spencer Kelly house. Pretty sure you skipped Blair's house. Oh, they didn't. Right. I wouldn't answer the door either if someone came banging on my door. But anyway, that's beyond, speak to that. I want to say, like, I live close enough to the thing that I feel like I would be affected by it. As far as noise that kids make, they don't make much. I have a walk path through my yard. Every single day, every single kid in this town walks through my yard, rides bikes through my yard. And there's never been a day that I go, there's kids riding bikes through the yard again. They're making so much noise. Everybody goes through my yard. Probably more people pass through my yard that'll be attending the skate park. And it's never affected my day. We worked hard on this. Even my 7-year-old daughter was like, why don't we put it there? It's just a dirt parking lot and it looks ugly. It doesn't make sense to have it in certain places. This was a place that was discussed. And one thing I want to be clear on is a lot of the information that's flying around is not true. This was started before that park. The money was raised for a skate park. It was not raised for that park. The money has been raised by community, by donations for us as a skate park committee to then give to you as a community. It was not raised for any other reason. It was raised as a group of people that wanted to do this. People backed us, people stepped up and did the job. And our end game through this entire project was to just hand it over as a gift to this town and a gift to the kids, so they have something to do. Because not every kid plays team sports. This is an opportunity for some kids that are the ones that excel in skiing to excel in something in the summer. And we're trying to shut it down because someone thinks bearings make noise and someone thinks this happens, and we're gonna have all these things. These reasons are just chosen because we have nothing better to do. And I wish I had your time to sit down and come up with an entire presentation. I don't have that time because I'm raising kids in this town. And I'm teaching kids how to ski, and I'm teaching kids how to have fun and make friends and do all that stuff. I wish I could just sit in my house and come up with it. I don't know what else to say. I hope the park goes through. I have kids that are waiting for me now. Thank you for listening to us. It's too bad that everybody can't listen.
Thank you. Do you want to say something?
I was just gonna ask, when's this deadline on the grant?
Basically, I know August, but I don't know if it was the date.
I don't know the exact date, but it's.
August of 2023, I believe is.
Okay, well, then my comment would be, OJ, is what's the rush? I mean, it seems like this has come up in 2 weeks, and as soon as the test results came back from Riverfront, boom, we ran right into this. And again, I don't see any documentation. I don't see any studies that have been done on it. I don't think that the job has been complete to evaluate the site. When I built a house, as we all know, and I had to fill out a lot of paperwork, and I had to go get some tests done, and I had to comply with this, that, and the other thing. And I'm a little surprised that I'm listening to this study of this skateboard park. I haven't seen a picture of it. I don't have any concept of what it looks like. I don't know where it is on the site plan. You know, people have anecdotally said things, but I don't see that anybody has studied anything or shown up with documents to show what it's actually going to be. And I think maybe we're rushing this. I'm not against it. I'm not against skateboarders. I'm not against the skateboard park. But I'd like to see a little more information go into it before decisions made. And maybe like Paul said, is have a discussion at the town meeting. I mean, August is not, you know, the end of the month.
The reason for the plan was because they needed the soils before they could figure out the plan. They need a location before they can design it. And then that's when we need to start giving them money, is when they're designing it for a specific site. So that's why they need one before we can have the other.
And construction has to be completed by
August.
I think it's substantial construction needs to be completed by fall of 23.
okay, so our deadline isn't August.
Okay, all right, thank
That-
you. I
that's-
didn't
okay,
understand that
'Cause
part of
I
it.
say, as far as I know, the contract needs to be signed, I think by the end of this month, which is tomorrow. But it won't be.
Right.
But I mean, it's imminent. If we don't act now, 80,000
Yes.
goes out the window.
And
It's
I
gonna
was-
cost us $80,000 to not do it now and wait a month.
And I think I was told that construction time frame, correct me if I'm wrong, is less than 60 days. Is that right, Jason?
Yep.
So, you know, 2 months from shoveling the ground, the project should be completed. So it's not gonna get dragged out over, you know, a whole season. So it's possible that if construction started in June, they could be done by the end of the summer, and it could be utilized before it's shut down for the winter.
Go ahead.
Chris Roma, I have a son who's 1.5 in Woodstock, so I don't live in Lincoln. But I've worked in this town and I know that working with the YALTA program, while that you're more likely gonna save a child's life with this than you are gonna damage it. And it's sad to see that. I know you guys have a view on what skateboarding is, but just the idea of it, and it's not true. So that's all I gotta say.
Thank you. All right, Danielle.
Danielle, I live on School Street and I live right near the school path. And it is amazing to watch the parents walk the kids to school with the dogs. They ride bicycles. I mean, they're always together. They're always caring. They're out. I mean, the kids right on the street. They're great kids. And I think the skate park on Pollard Road is a great idea. I think maybe just not dusk to dawn. Maybe we should limit those hours a little bit tighter. put on some speed bumps, a fence perhaps. But I mean, our neighborhood is diminishing. I mean, people working in the communities can't afford to buy the houses. And there's less and less available for these kids to do. And I think the skate park is a great idea. It's a blessing to the community and to the kids. That's how I feel. I love the idea.
All right, I'm ready to.
Raising his.
One more.
You already spoke. Kevin is raising his hand. Well, Kevin Bell did not.
Kevin Bell, you haven't spoke yet. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I just want to say two things. One, since we started this project almost a decade ago, our vision has been the same, and I'll read it tonight. To build an outdoor public skate park for the communities of Lincoln and Woodstock in order to create a positive recreational environment for its members. That has been our mission. That is what we presented from our very first meeting with Friends of Recreation, Board of Selectmen, and every entity that we've spoken with. It's been posted on our website since then. And I want to commend the hundreds of people who have attended our fundraisers, have made donations to this goal, to our purpose, because yes, while Brian, Jason, and myself are the tip of the spear of the committee, it has been a group, a coalition of people who have supported our events and our mission to fulfill this goal. And I'm happy to say that we have reached that financial goal, and it's taken about a decade to get there. And the effort that in support that we have received to this point has been tremendous. So I just want to thank all of those people who are there tonight in support of the park and who have supported us for the last 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Wait, I did say that I was going to include the letters that have been submitted, and most of them have been asked to please read this at the public meeting. I will go through these as quickly as possible, but in fairness, we did ask people to contribute by letter, and I think it's important that we hear their thoughts, just not just because they can't be here, they shouldn't be heard. From Heather Krill, I'm sorry I had to leave the meeting early, but I wanted to register my support for the new location on Pollard Road for the skate park. From JJ Bijou, I apologize that I'm not here to comment publicly. I fully support the construction of a skateboard park at the community center at 194 Pollard Road. I understand the original proposal near the Riverwalk is no longer financially viable due to the recently discovered soil quality issues. I've also been told that the Kink area is not a reasonable option, as the skate park would be inaccessible during the summer hours when day camp is in session. And it appears that the rush to build is due to a significant amount of grant money that is set to expire. With all of those factors in mind, the vacant space at the community center seems like an excellent alternative option, one that I'm told is fully supported by the town and the recreation department. I'm empathetic to the concerns from neighbors regarding noise, but I trust that any and all efforts will be undertaken to mitigate that potential issue. Since the beginning of this project, safety has always been a key component in the planning process. The community center location allows for easy access by emergency services and is highly visible. I am not a skateboarder, I never was, but many of my friends are and were. They've been waiting for this for 40+ years. I only say that to illustrate the skateboarding is not a fad that is going away. Let's get this done and continue to be proud that our community supports its citizens in all their healthy choices of hobbies and activities. From Marcus Corey, I will be out of town for the skate park public hearing this next week and unavailable by Zoom. I just wanted to put in my support of the park for being built at the community building on Pollard Road. When I got involved with the skate park, the riverfront park was not a thing yet. I've always thought the vacant lot next to the community garden would be a great spot for the skate park. Promoting recreation on a site owned and operated by the town's recreation department seems like a win to me. As a resident who lives off Pollard Road, I would love to see a place that my kids could walk to and enjoy, like a skate park. From Carla Smith. Thank you very much for your reply in the aerial map that was sent in. The map answers my question, isn't it? And it is exciting to see another wonderful opportunity for the kids in town. The programs and activities at the Kank Rec Center are truly such a benefit for the community. Our hometown has nothing in comparison, and I feel this is such a great local strength in Lincoln.
She lives, I don't know if she put her address, but she lives on the other side of the playground where the child care center playground.
Oh, okay, did not know that, thank you. Amy Cleveland,
I'm here.
you're here,
I think you've answered most of my questions.
okay,
Although I would like that put in as, that were valid questions. And, but yeah, with a little research, I think I've answered most of them.
okay,
Thank you.
But-
Doesn't need to be read.
okay,
You don't
we'll
need to read it,
include that with the minutes,
Please.
for sure, thank
Yeah.
you. Jamie O'Brien. I live here in town and also own a little boutique in the Village Shops building. I'm not able to make Monday's night meeting, but wanted to express that I am in huge support of the skate park being built in Lincoln. As a kid, all I wanted to do was rollerblade. It has always been a large part of my life and still is. I think a skate park would be a great asset to our community in terms of allowing for positive outlet and quite frankly deterring youth crime. My thought on the location. I think the original spot near Riverwalk would still be the best location. Is it a definite no for that area, or would it just take too much time? With all the expansion happening on South Peak of Loon and with Riverwalk, I feel this area would be such a positive spot for the youth in the area. I believe the original location near the Riverwalk should be granted to the Linwood Skate Park, but I also think the recreation area on Pollard Road could be a good temporary location. And then he asked, what if they use materials that can be moved if and when the original location is ready? That way they're able to commit to their original location, but have a place skate park for youth in the area to go in the meantime, which is a good idea, except it will be a concrete park. So yeah. And this final letter is from Deb and Mike O'Connor. We'd like to thank Tara for supporting the adult pickleball program that started this winter.
Still goes back to pickleball.
Back in November, Aaron Louts and Debbie O'Connor approached Tara regarding the adult pickleball program through the Lincoln Woodstock Rec Department. The plan was to utilize the indoor basketball court at the high school and run the program like an adult open gym, yet specifically for pickleball. The high school gym has been a great location during the winter months, but the court time is limited to certain days and certain hours around the gym usage by the school. Tara provided us with some nets to put up when using the gym court space, and she helped market the program. On the first night back in December, we had close to 30 adults show up to play pickleball. Needless to say, the adult pickleball program has been a huge success. We have over 40 adults from Lincoln and Woodstock on our list of players. We plan to continue running the adult pickleball program inside the high school until it gets warm enough to move outside. The question is where to play outside. Many of the resorts in Lincoln and Woodstock have added pickleball courts for their homeowners over the past few years. Unfortunately, they are not public courts. Currently, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country. We have had some discussions on where we could play outside for the Lincoln Woodstock residents. One of the areas could be the Kank basketball courts, a similar setup to what we have inside the high school gym. Times would have to be allotted for adults to play so as not to conflict with the children's activities, including summer camp. Nets would need to be set up and taken down during specified times, since the courts would be a multi-use basketball and pickleball. Our goal is to have at least 2 dedicated pickleball courts that we can use at any time for the Lincoln and Woodstock residents with the rec departments. Recently, we heard about the skateboard park may be built at the community center. As residents that live on Mansion Hill Drive, we can see the community center from our backyard. We feel this new location is a great idea. It gives more visibility to be easily monitored and police activities at the park. As far as noise goes, it is not any noisier than cars driving by or the noises from the Airbnb houses behind our house that abut the community center land. We are hopeful the hours will be acceptable to the local homeowners and not go late into the evenings. If the skateboard park ends up at the community center, that would also be a great location for some pickleball courts. It would make it truly the community center with all ages enjoying recreational activities. So while kids are skateboarding, parents and grandparents can be playing pickleball on dedicated. We're going to Tara to research the feasibility of building some courts in Lincoln. What started with a couple of people thinking maybe we can find some people to play pickleball has grown into a great activity for the adults in our community. If they build it, they will come. Those are our letters.
All right, next art party will be for a pickleball. Whatever.
All right, I'm gonna. Go ahead, Chad.
I just have one more thing.
Yep.
If it helps the board.
Yep.
I think, I'm pretty confident I can come up with a traffic study for Pollard Road. It may not include stop signs. But I can provide, time of day, day of week, week of month, of the year, average speed, high speed, low speed, number of vehicles that travel the roads. I have all the information at least for the last 6 months. So if that helps the board, I would probably produce that.
Thank you.
Just not stop signs.
Thank you. All right. I know there's people who want to speak again that have already spoken. I think that we've kind of gone around here enough, just to be fair. Tammy, can you hear and participate? Guess we'll take that as a no.
I think she had bad internet. She kept coming in and out.
Okay.
But
Do you have anything to?
No, I'd like to thank everybody that attended. Thank you for your comments.
We gotta make a decision tonight?
I'm ready to make a decision.
Okay, we may be making a decision. We're at least gonna talk about it as a board. Can Tammy join back?
You want to make that decision at the next meeting and put it on.
I at least wanted, I at least wanted, I want people here to leave. Not thinking we're gonna just make a hidden decision when the room's empty.
Let's put it on the agenda for the second.
Can we at least discuss it?
Well, let's have a special meeting. Yeah, so we can discuss it and make a decision on that. I don't want to make, we're meeting every 2 weeks. I don't want to run the gamut of another delay.
All right.
Isn't time important?
What's that?
Isn't time frame important?
It is.
It is, which is why, I mean, if we meet at our next meeting, that's the night before town meeting, and I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, just
Let's have a special meeting next week someday.
we do it next Monday. All right, because one of the reasons for this whole meeting was for us to hear what went on.
sorry, Tammy said she has 5 kids sleeping in her room right now.
Okay.
That's why she's.
All right. And there's valid points on both sides. I always hate to make listen to everybody and then make them go away to make a decision. I just don't think that's right. But I do want Tammy to be part of it and be able to hear and speak. And I have some comments and I guess reflections on things that I've heard tonight. I've been taking notes. I think a lot of things, positive, good things have been said on both sides. But if we can postpone the decision when all three, will she be here in a week from tonight?
Yeah, she's back by Friday.
Yeah. She's back by Friday, so Monday she could do it. I gotta make sure.
Are you here?
I think so.
You know him too well, Tracy.
I've done that before, make a. Nothing happening next Monday, so let's put first on the agenda prior to even minutes or anything else.
Well, it's gonna be the only thing most likely on the agenda, right?
Correct, that we will discuss and make a decision on the next step of the skateboard park location.
Just you guys?
Is it open to the
It'll be
public?
an open meeting.
The public is always invited. We have to have our meetings in public, okay? We've heard tonight with the hearing, next week, it'll be the three of us making the decision on it. Oh, you know,
I'm not voting.
no, you're not voting, but to participate in the discussion, we would invite Karina, Tara, Chad, Scott, staff and elected officials.
And all of our meetings are public and they're always zoomed as well.
They're always zoomed. Sometimes they're spotty when we have like 40 people on. on Zoom and another 50 people are here online, using the broadband. That's where we stand. Again, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Very simple, very positive. What's that? We're going into town.
Thanks, actually.
Management board, all the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just you, I want to say about it. Young guys.
Yes, it is, and you can say that as much as you want, say that, but it's. It's not. Yeah, you know, it's just that's a very negative. I mean,
That's nice.
I think it's.
All right.
We just gotta. Because we get. We don't get yeah, makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you, Jay.
Jay, how are you? Well, we'll see what it looks like. It may have all gone.
We'll be back. That'd be great. You'll see them talk about it. All right. That's a I'm the one making the rules. All right. That's what we need. That's why we convey, because that was what the request was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So great.
Oh, God, it's a small. one.
Did anybody comment on the new rug?
I'm
On the new rug.
I'm calling the meeting back to order. First order of business is we have a brand new rug in this room.
Well, if you were here last week, you would have been able to smell it throughout the
Oh, right, right.
whole building, so.
All right. So we skipped over a minute. We want to go back to that?
Yes. All right, you got,
February 3rd, which was the meeting with Loon discussing traffic. It's just a couple of sentences.
yes,
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as distributed.
And I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is the February 9th meeting. which was the meeting we had down at the Forest Service Building in Campton. I didn't see anything with those. Want to make a motion on that?
I will make a motion to approve those minutes. What time did that? I didn't even put it in my. What time did we start? 10, 11 o'clock?
On the 9th, we started at,
10?
no, we started at 9.
Nine.
Started at 9 and
Ended at
I left at 11:15 and you left probably, I don't know.
11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I left it right about 11 before the afternoon.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. You
Yeah.
meet the chief. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then, sorry, that was February 3rd, right? Then the next,
No, that was February 9.
February 9th.
We already did the 3rd. The 3rd was the,
here we go, February 9th. I've got these in the wrong order. Then the next one is our regular Monday meeting, February 13th.
yes,
And that was the first public hearing on the skateboard park.
correct.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as the 30th.
And I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. All right, good. We get those.
And then you also have non-public from the 13th as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public minutes for February 13th as distributed.
And I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Maybe I written them up.
We don't need those.
Oh, okay. There you go, Tammy.
All right.
All right, let's go on to the town manager's report.
Well, you're lucky I don't have much tonight.
Yeah, I am
okay?
lucky. Appreciate it. Good thinking.
Granicus update for real this time, okay?
It's working.
It's working.
Yep.
As of last week, our website is back up and running. We appreciate the residents' patience and understanding while we worked it out. As of last Friday, we had 120 registrations that went through the system. As of this morning, we had 135. So the number is keeping on, is keeping to grow, which is good, it's continuing to grow. So I guess our thought process in-house is that we'll send out another reminder in about a week or two, you know, middle of the month, essentially that just as a reminder, you know, we always sent out an email directing everyone to the website, but sometimes they get lost in junk or people forget about them or whatnot. So we figured we'd send out another reminder in a few weeks to try to catch the ones that we know that haven't registered. After that, we would like to start the delinquent letter campaign April 1. So on April 1, letters will go out to everyone that's non-compliant in the system, telling them you haven't registered yet for 2023. We see that you're active on these, you know, apps or whatnot. You have 30 days to register your short-term rental, or that's when the fines will start being imposed. So letters will go out April 1, they'll have 30 days to register, and then starting May 1, we'll follow the fine schedule that we have adopted in the ordinance. If the board's okay with that.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So it's been, you know, a long time coming, but it does seem as if it's finally working. Next on,
When you say,
we're still holding payment. Yes, we're not gonna
Good.
pay the final quarter until we know that,
we lost 2 months.
yeah,
At least.
at least, yeah.
At least 2 months.
So, right, and this last payment is our 4th quarterly installment. It's from January 1. Yeah, January 1 to our April 1 date, which is the when we renew for 2023. So Lisa and I on Wednesday are we asked them to retrain us all on the website because it's been 2.5 months since we've used it, right? So we've asked them to do a full training all over again. So on Wednesday, Lisa and I are going through the whole motions for the training again. We told Carol and Ryan that they could participate as well, just if they wanted to see it, and just more eyes on it, the better, right? And we'll go through the whole training process. We'll get the whole kit and caboodle again. And the gentleman that we've been working with through these problems is going to stay on as our customer rep for a while. So we have a direct point of contact who knows the issues that we've experienced. So.
When you send out that letter on April 1st, is there a different letter that goes to people that registered last year and haven't renewed versus
Yes.
ones that we found online and they might not even know they need to?
Yes, so there's a renewal notice and then there's a first notice or a
Okay.
first, so, depending on if they're already, what Grant has called active in the system means they had a registration in 2022. They'll get renewals. If they didn't have a registration in 2022, they'll get the first notice. It'll send them a link to our ordinance on the website where then they can read the short-term rental ordinance and they can find more information about the whole program, so. Next on my town manager's report is Chenard legal update. An in-person hearing has been scheduled for Tuesday, April 4th at 2 p.m. regarding the motion to clarify judgment. So as a refresher, Bruce Marshall, who is Joe Chenard's attorney, and Attorney Dennis, who is the town council, there was, I guess, a discrepancy on how the judge's order should be enforced and whether or not certain things should be included in that judgment, i.e. the tractor trailers and whatnot. So this is a legal update with the judge who ruled on it to get his perspective on what his judgment really entailed. And then we hopefully will have a better understanding. I think that, the town feels that those are included. Obviously, Mr. Chenard does not feel like those need to be included. So we'll have a clear understanding of what that judgment entailed and how we can move forward. So.
Now, do you know, like, does the judge just come out and tell us? Or does he ask questions of both sides?
I don't know.
I cannot make that.
I would imagine he'll ask questions
I would think so.
of particularly, in regards to what pictures we've taken, what still exists on the property. And, the penalties that was imposed, what was it, $50 a day, starting?
Yep. Starting,
September,
yeah,
I know it's-
a few months back,
it's
November, maybe November 1, something, yeah.
It's run substantial at this point in time.
I plan to be there. Not that I was around when this lawsuit originated, but I do plan to be there. I think it's, again, the interpretation of the judge's ruling that's being put in question. So I think that the
It's gonna
judge,
be illegal.
I think it's gonna be a legal thing. Not necessarily evidence that we can procure
Right.
since the judge's ruling, more so, what does the judge's ruling entail?
Yep.
What is, I guess, considered part of the judgment,
The cleanup.
the cleanup?
Because I mean, there's more than just the trucks are the big one.
Oh, yeah.
Tractor trailers are the big.
Oh,
one.
yeah,
There's all
absolutely,
the other
But
stuff.
there's,
So.
he did get rid of some stuff,
right.
but
No, and again, I think this is being led by Mr. Chenard and not by the town. The town stands by its, opinion that the property hasn't been cleaned up to satisfaction, and that's why we did impose that fine, and that's why that fine's been rolling. I think it's more so Mr. Chenard's attempt to maybe not have to satisfy all the criteria that the town feels is needs to be completed. So.
okay.
Okay. Road postings. Nate would like the board's approval to post weight restrictions on the roads starting next Monday, the
Is that
6th.
The list that I saw.
List
coming
is
in?
on the website, and list is also on the doors.
Yeah.
The following roads are, if you'd like me to read them.
I saw them coming in. I looked at them all.
Yeah,
I know
I
you
saw
did. You studied.
it's the same ones that we always have.
It is.
Well, I'll make a motion to authorize the superintendent of public works to post the roads effective March 6th.
I'll second that.
Hey,
Paul, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, is this earlier than normal? I think
It's
it is.
usually It's usually within the first few weeks of March.
It's always in March.
Yeah,
It seems to me like it's a little earlier and I mean, considering that winter has continued on and we've had cold spells, it would seem to me that it might be better off to go a little later. I mean, I know your public works guy, Nate, is well informed, but considering the weather, it just seems like it's really early. That's all.
I've worked in other communities where they always did it March 1st. So I know, I'm not, I haven't been around here for, you know, more than a year or so, so I don't know, but
Given that.
Well, postings are typically based on weather.
Given the fact that Mr. Bowden's comments may have some validity to it, I will make a motion. We authorize Nate to use his judgment May 6th.
no earlier than March 6th.
No earlier than March 6th.
Right. That's fine.
Thank you.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, Paul. All right,
And then the last thing I have on my report today is we were notified that the proposed location change for the skate park would most likely require a new project submittal rather than an amendment for the NCR grant. There's still hope for an amendment, but they have two major concerns. The first is time. We need to spend that money by this fall or we lose that money.
How much is that?
It is $200,000. The second, and so that's the time portion of it. And the second is the site review process, the historical, environmental, all those review processes that we would have to go through for this federal grant. Are we able to complete those in a short turnaround time? So
what was the date you said? What was the date we have to have this all done by?
I believe this grant ends in September of this year.
So August 30th. Or September 30th.
I think it's September. I don't know. I mean,
All
if
right.
Tara was here, she would know the exact date, I'm sure off the top of her head. I know I'm almost positive it's September X of 2023.
All right, and this was, the access to the river is the big part of that grant, is that correct?
They are willing, they have not identified that as a sticking point that is no longer part of the plan. That's also why, though, I think they're leaning towards a new submittal rather than an amendment, because it is how they view it as it's a different
All right.
project.
Um,
I mean, it's still a community-based project that brings recreation to the town, you know, so it does check some of the boxes off, but it doesn't check all of them.
And, you know, like I said tonight, I wasn't being facetious, but we put the pickleball courts over there. As far as the recreational component there, not in addition to the walking, the kayak, canoes and what have you. I don't know, something to think about.
we want to build one or two pavilions at the Tank Rec area for the summer program. Those are on the CIP plan. Would those qualify for this grant?
Possibly.
Would pickleball courts qualify?
Possibly, I mean, I don't know.
I know you're not the.
Yeah, I don't know all the
administrator,
details of the grant. I will say that, any future revisions is just going to look like we are
Making shit up.
making stuff up to be able to spend the money. But they want to be able to give us the money, you know, because
Right.
if it goes back, it's gonna go back into the funds and have to be reappropriated, and that's a real pain in the butt. They want to see us succeed. Another thing is, if we don't spend this money, the likelihood that we will get grant from
Well,
it,
right.
it's
Minimal.
minimal, right?
Yeah.
So, so Tara and I are going to, we need clarification on exactly what is required for the historical and the environmental review process. For us to be able to establish if we can get it done in the next 3 months.
Okay,
So that's first step. What are we going to be required to do? And then we can identify if we need to send a new submittal for a whole new project in. With doing that, a new submittal is, we're gonna have to follow new guidelines and not the guidelines that we received when we were originally approved for this grant. That's where we are.
Yep. All right, keep moving. I mean, if,
That's all we can do.
if the pavilions work, if paddleball courts work,
Mhm.
pickleball, for both of them.
Right.
Or if the research into the walkway down to the river
Mhm.
isn't gonna, take more time than we have.
Yeah.
That works too.
Like Old Hole.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we have the parking and it's just the path between the highway and the old hole. Either over the existing easement, or if we can work.
We can work with the landowner to
use a
right,
different path.
reestablish the easement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or relocate the easement.
Right, but how much I don't know how much environmental and historical work they would require of that.
I don't know
I
either.
mean, it's an old mill
That's all
yard,
they've done.
it's an old mill yard.
Mhm.
They're gonna find pulp. I mean, that's what's there.
Yeah, I think it's just getting a contractor to do the work, right? What our requirements, what the criteria is,
To do the study.
to do the study,
Yeah.
right?
So, yeah, Paul?
Yeah, there's, I don't know if you were talking about the site over by the community building, or where I think there was somewhere else you were talking about, but the community building has a lot of history. I mean, the old J.E. Henry building was there, the convent was there.
Yes.
I mean,
We told them,
there's a,
it's already an established lot, it's been an established lot, there was homes on it, there were, it's not like it's this.
Virgin.
there's a lot,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, there's a lot of old history around a lot of this town, so just saying, I mean, there's a lot. I didn't know if you guys all knew it.
Right, we were specifically talking about the trail, well, the non-trail, the legal easement we have to get from Route 112 down to Old Hole. It's unwalkable, but we have an easement. And my thought is that the only history on that land is that it was used to move logs.
The old dump.
Yeah, they're gonna dig and they're gonna find pulp.
Oh, they're gonna find the old dump if they go down far enough,
Yeah, no, it's not down that far. It's right behind the electric station.
Yeah, substations.
The substation.
Yeah, there was
You
nothing
gotta be
there.
like a billy goat to get down to it, Paul, it's super.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I know. I used to travel. No,
All right, let's,
what I remember, yeah, sorry about that. I thought you were talking about down by the community building.
Well, we were originally talking about hopefully being able to use the grant there to help with this skateboard park project, whether it be at picnic tables or walkways or landscaping to make it more of a all-encompassing kind of community project. Or if we can't do that, maybe can we use the funds for Old Hole?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll find a lot more history over by the community center than you will by the old hole. There's just a ton, I mean, from a J.E. Henry house to the old convent to I mean, there's still that part of the community center where you store stuff, and there was the old horseshit storage area, for the barn. So, I mean, there's still part of it there, so there's a lot of history there in that one little corner. You might be better off served going down to the old hole.
Paul, speaking of history, I was looking on my bookshelf the other night, one of the historical pictures of Woodstock and Lincoln. Mike Dickerman wrote it. And your father's referenced in that book was some of his pictures that he donated to the book. It was interesting.
Yep. Mike Dickerman was Mike Dickerman used to work for the Wilton Courier, and he used to come to every Lincoln Board of Selectmen's meeting almost.
Hot news.
that was back when it was exciting.
Yeah, that's back when Ed Mon was there. Oh, yeah, it was exciting. You're right. I guess you guys live boring lives. What can we say?
That's fine with me.
I'll keep it boring, please.
His niece was at that meeting.
Yeah.
That's his Erica, that's his
Yeah,
niece.
she's at the Forest Service meeting.
Yeah, Forest Service meeting.
Who was?
Mike Dickman's niece, Erica.
Oh, I think you meant Paul Bowden's father's name. Like, no, she wasn't. Sorry. I didn't know who he was referring to. All right, go ahead.
That's all I have. I can give you a brief update in non-public regarding the personnel
Yep,
interview,
Let's
but
do that.
other than that, I don't have any public left.
Okay, let's open for a public hearing. Let's
Yeah,
let people-
any,
Hey.
public comment from people online? Go ahead.
OJ, I just have one question. I've been waiting all night to ask it. After
Yeah.
the police department, I would just like to know as a taxpayer where each selectman stands on the police department. Are you all three in favor and supporting the police department currently under the $6 million price tag?
I am, absolutely.
Okay,
I've looked at what other towns have paid for theirs on a, on multiple bases, on a per square foot basis. On a, total, ratio of the cost of the station versus the assessed value of the town, like what percentage? And we are below average.
I got you. How about you, Jack?
Yeah, no, I know, Paul. I was in favor of the $24 million one. No, Paul.
You want record saying that.
Look, I'm just asking as a taxpayer
No, and I'll give you an honest answer.
where the leadership is and that's what that's what I wanted to know.
Paul, no, it's sorely needed. I looked at the numbers. I mean, I think that the architectural group has done a great job in coming down, meeting what we felt was a reasonable cost to do this, something. So as a taxpayer, yes, I'm in favor.
All right. Is Tammy still on? Is she? No, she's on
No.
here.
I haven't
Okay.
been, oh, I shouldn't say that.
All right, thank you very much. I got 2 out of 3. I guess I should consider myself lucky. Thank you very much. I think you did a great job tonight. Considering all the people that were there. It's gonna be a hard fought battle, I think. It's pretty much 50-50, but on that skateboard park.
Well, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Paul.
Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment from people online?
Nope.
Who's the cool motorcycle picture? Anyway, if there's none, then I'll make a motion to go to non-public. We have an update on a personnel issue.
Second that one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.